stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy, do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
This is the next search on February 28, 2020, 7:44 p.m. How, does the FBI find people? People is misspelled P-E-O-O-P-L-E. Did the defendant find out how the FBI finds people in this case? Oh, she found out.
All right, good morning. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. Yes, I did mess up the audio there at the beginning. Who called that out? Who put the oops in chat? I'm not a camel. Who did the oops there? Well, whoever it was. You were right. You were right. It is Friday, though. It is, what is it? Passionate No Pants Friday? Is it Passionate No Pants Friday? I think that's it. I think we call it Passionate No Pants Fridays. Am I missing something? There's something else. Got the water early, though, and that's necessary. Because not only is it Friday, it's also somebody's birthday. It's somebody's birthday. Somebody has got to have a birthday here today. It's Passionate No Pants Friday for sure, says Red Pen. Red Pen, we need to talk. We need to talk here in public where the rest of chat can call you out. We would love, I say we because I'm speaking for Thomas, Weather Watch as well. We would love for Mr. Red Pen and Adam Nusky to join us on the podcast tonight. And I realize this might be a big ask. Ask. There was a K on the end. Ask. A big ask. But I think you guys would be great. You two, I should say. You two would be great on the podcast, and we'd love it. Let's see. Red Pen says, "Uh-oh." I'm missing. Oh, hang on. I know what I'm missing. My iPad's not open. I'm like, why am I not getting things working? It's because I've been lazy. And I have no excuse, really. Mrs. R.A. did her exercise like half an hour early just so I could get set up, and then I was late and messed it up. So no excuses today. It's all my fault. Hang on. I'm ignoring chat for just 1 second. I need to see. Under tornado warning here in Boston area. Oh my goodness, Carol. First things, why am I so tall? Let's see. Can we start over? Is it too late to just start over and pretend I didn't mess up this whole morning? Because I feel like I'm like off my groove. Let's turn this on, that there we go. I'm missing one. Britta Aller. Britta, where are you?
Scratch all that. Oh, that was terrible.
Scratch that. Yeah, the whole intro just needs a quick redo is what we're going to do. Actually, we're just going to imagine it in our heads. Britta, where are you at? Where are you at, girl? I know you're here. Britta was first in chat this morning, and now, although she's trying to evade me, just like we know from all the police chases we watch, it doesn't do any good. We will catch you, and we will hold you accountable for your crimes. You were first in chat, and so we will sentence you when we catch you, which we will. There you are. Boom. Gotcha. We will sentence you to own the internet and maintain everything IP related worldwide. Britta, congratulations. Repeat offender. I think habitual offender at this point. It's becoming a serious thing. You might need to, consider your lifestyle choices, things like that, Britta. But thank you very much for being first in chat. Congratulations today as well. Okay, we have. It helps if I put Britta on the screen. Why did Britta fall off the screen? Why did it? Hang on. Connecting. Boom. Okay, we did catch Britta. Just for the record, I thought she was on the screen, but it didn't end up there. All right, so Britta, you're there. That's one more thing we've done correctly this morning. Late. Let's see. How do I do that on Zoom? I will, Red Pen, I will send you a link. It's actually through something called StreamYard, and it's just a web page, but it's a lot like Zoom. So we will send you a link. Red can't say no, says Lee. I love the idea. I've got no other plans, says Lewis Cox. Yep, Red Pen's gonna be there. Okay, I promised I will not promise to be funny. That's fine. We just want you. That's fine. And Adam. I haven't heard from Adam. He's sort of ghosting me since I asked him as well. Good morning, Kurt. Uncivil Laws here in the house. How are you doing, my friend? Let's see. I think that's it. I do have to sing. I think you have to sing Happy Birthday because I believe we have a couple. Let's see. Tish's daughter Madison turns 20 today. Is she watching, Tish? Can we get her watching here? If I'm going to sing, I prefer the people to be able to catch it live because it's like going to a concert. It's one thing to like hear somebody on the radio and be like, yeah, I've heard that song before. But if you could be like, I was there when he performed it live, that's like, it's a whole different experience. It's like you're caught up in the moment. Okay, my birthday is the 22nd. Okay, Jamie, that puts you on Monday, right? Wait, hang on. This is higher math. Just 1 second. 18 to 22. That puts you Tuesday, right? Why is my watch not working? I swear, you pay all this money for an Apple Watch. 22 puts it on Tuesday. Okay, I was close. I was within 1 day. I realized I probably should be able to do that, without counting my fingers. But okay, Tish says yes. Madison is here. That's good. Is there anyone else we need to sing to that has a birthday between now and Monday? I guess. Casey Bamagal. Oh my goodness, Casey Bamagal. Is there? Do you want me to put that? Is it Casey Bamagal? I can't even say it. I can't say. How am I going to sing this, Casey Bamagal gal, if I can't say your name correctly once? How am I going to work it into a song with proper pitch and everything else? Okay. You might need to out yourself and tell us like your real name. Casey Bamagal.
Today, Nay.
Okay. Any other birthdays here before we get started? We've got some court to catch up on from yesterday, and it's got some good stuff. 80s Music Man thinks. You try to sneak in here. You try to sneak in on Brandy's show. It's like creak. I can't do the door signals, the door sound. I don't have it. So creak. That was the door when 80s Music Man snuck in. Okay, Kathy, thank you so much. That is a little easier to sing than Casey Bamagal, which I just said correctly for the first time. All right. Did I miss anyone else? Do we just have Madison and Kathy?
I object.
I object as well. Anyone could object. Last chance. Let's see. My granddaughter turns 21 on Sunday. Happy birthday to her, Mammy. That's exciting. 21 is a fun age. Almost everything becomes legal. The only thing you can't do at 21, I think, is rent a car, right? Or run for president. After 21, there's not a whole bunch of like milestone birthdays where it's like, yes, unless you're really looking forward to the senior discount, which is good. I mean, that's a good thing as well. Carolina lady, good morning. Happy Friday to you. Glad to have you here. I think we're about set up to sing. I just need. I've got the music right here. We're good.
OMG, did I catch a live?
Cakes Boo. Great mod in the house. Thank you very much. You did catch a live. Good to have you here. I think we're good. Gritty Gret. Me, my birthday. We've got 3. Okay. I need my mods to help me out in case I missed anyone else. I'll need that buffer sound playing in my ear. Gritty Gret. All right. So we have 3. 3 is good. I can fit 3 in the song. When it rains, it pours, though, because it's usually we have no birthdays or 5. So last chance. Aaron Patterson first, though. Gifts, 5 gifts. If we're celebrating birthdays, there have to be presents, and Aaron Patterson brought them for everybody. 5 gifted memberships. Thank you very much, Aaron. I appreciate your generosity. Not sure who they went. Oh, there they went. Courtney, Cheryl C., Jamie Kincaid, Sally M., and Nikki Bachmeyer. Congratulations. Okay. Reed said his was Sunday. Or Richard. We'll sing to you as well, because that's going to be over the weekend. We'll miss that. Okay, there's 4. We have to start. If the list gets too long, it won't fit. Yeah, I'm good. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Madison, Kathy, Gritty, Gret, and Richard. Happy birthday to you. That was a solid 9. And don't say anything otherwise, because everyone knows that the timing was almost impeccable. That was really good. I'm going to put that on my best of hits. Happy birthday to all the birthday people. Yes, I appreciate everyone who's singing along. Oh, Nikki, happy birthday to Nikki as well on Sunday. That's awesome. Happy birthday on Sunday, sorry. And many more on Channel 4, all that stuff. Terry Lynn, welcome to the gallery. What a time to join while we're singing happy birthday to everybody. You might have to out yourself and reveal when your birthday is so we can sing to you as well. Good to have you here as a member. Good to have you in green with the courthouse by your name. Just know that you do have now reserved seating up in the front row. You can type !seat anytime we're live and just go ahead and move right up to the front. I will tell you, in honor of all your birthdays, I'm going to buy myself some spicy maple bourbon pickles. I'm currently out. I went through the fridge and I'm looking through, you know how I like saving like a spare jar that has just a couple pickles left, just in case, like for an emergency when I need them. So I'll hide them, then I'll get another jar, and it's weird, but I do it. I went through all my jars and there was like no pickles. I'm like, why am I even saving just the pickle juice? So all the pickle jars got cleaned out. Now there's room for a lot more pickles, and we're going to do it. She watched it. I recorded it. Oh, great. Thank you, Tish. I appreciate that. I have this idea to record a singing happy birthday to every single person in the world, just one name at a time. I'm not sure how many decades or lifetimes it would take to sing all of them, but
thank you for the birthday song. You made my B-Day.
Hey, that is awesome, Kathy. Thank you very much for being here. Happy birthday. We know there are a million places you could be on your birthday to celebrate, and it's not lost on us that you've chosen to be here with us. It is our honor to share this day with you. Thank you very much. Speaking of that, we're also going to share this day with Mr. Thomas Randolph, who was in court yesterday afternoon. Yesterday morning, we were supposed to watch court live yesterday, and court had some problems. They had some issues, and the judge has ruled now that no arguments that are made outside the presence of the jury can be broadcast at all. So she's like clamping down. It's almost like a gag order that she's giving us. And every single day she's like getting more and more restrictive. Pretty soon she's just going to kick the cameras out. She's like, I'll text you when court's over and tell you what happened.
For your pickle fun cucumber.
Thank you very much. It starts as a cucumber, ends as a pickle. Lynn in South Carolina, appreciate the super chat.
Is that correct?
That's correct. Anyway, so the judge is sort of clamping down, and every day we're getting less and less. You saw, we keep thinking that it's the cameraman that's forgetting to do anything. No, they're complying. First she says no video. Now she said no video or audio. And so we're getting less and less information as this goes along. Let's see, quick search. There are over hundreds of millions of unique names in the world.
I object.
Maybe I'll have to employ AI to help me. I can like sing the song and then have AI dub in my voice saying everyone's name. Would that be easier? Don't forget the Microsoft update I woke up with this morning. You got a Microsoft update.
Scratch all that.
It has been so long since I've had a Microsoft update, and I don't miss them at all. I don't. That's what Chick-fil-A uses. AI is good. It's good enough for them.
I'm not a cat.
Well, she's getting strict. Did something happen? I'm not sure if she. I don't think something happened, because it's not like something got out that shouldn't have. It's that I think she's becoming aware, like wasn't aware. Maybe she's never had a televised case before. And so now she's like, oh, I didn't know that was going out. I'd like to keep it, I think she thinks that the public should only see what the jury sees, which is weird because the public's allowed in the courtroom. But at the same time, when the public's in the courtroom, this might be her thinking, and there's a bench trial, when the public's in the courtroom, the jury's there, they turn on the scrambled noise so you can't hear anything on the sidebars. So maybe she's trying to extend that a little bit. She's already made a couple other rulings. We're not even allowed to tell you the makeup of the jury, like how many approximate ages, men, women, we can't tell you any of that. Let's see, how silly the Microsoft case update I sent you to the burner. I don't even have Microsoft anymore. KT, I completely missed that one. Yes, the update with the wife being arrested, which I think you said you had suspicions all along that she was involved. I do want to know if her case is going to be handled differently, or if that will delay the main case as well. So we'll look for that. People are getting way too comfortable with AI, in my opinion. Liven, you are not wrong. I mean, the whole, I can't do that, Hal, or I can't do that. What was it? It was Hal that says, I can't do that, whatever, in the movie, the science fiction movie where the AI sort of takes over and makes a decision, and, it's us versus the computers. And iRobot has the same thing. It's science sort of has predicted the future, and now we're here. Or science fiction predicted the future, and now we're here. Maybe somebody caught snitching to the media. Well, I don't know. The only thing we know that happened is we had somebody yell out to the jurors as they left court 2 days ago. Something about, if you're any sort of politician, you'll vote guilty. And now we don't even know what she said to the jurors or what happened. But apparently they're all there. We haven't heard that any got dismissed. I think we still have our 2 alternates. I can't tell you if we did because apparently, the judges ordered us not to. But so does the Terminator. Yes, there's a couple movies where AI goes bad. I can't do that. Dave, that's it. And it's HAL 9000. They named it HAL because those are the letters right before IBM. So HAL is IBM, and it was just literally like a play on the big computer company of the day. Anyway, that's going to happen. Just eventually, every single one of us is going to be in the same situation as Will Smith, where our car is telling us, you are experiencing an accident. It's happening. We're getting there. The Matrix, all these movies where things went bad. I'm sorry, Dave. I can't do that. Space Odyssey. And it's Dave. It comes from Dave, by the way. Dave gives us that Dave quote. All right. That being said, we need to get started with trial. We have a full day. Let me tell you just a sneak peek what we're going to have today. We know that we're going to have Mr. Miller's. Well, I know everything because I peeked ahead and I sort of saw what was coming. We're going to have Mr. Miller's family testify. And I believe we're going to have them sort of bookend the day. So we're going to start with a relative from Mr. Miller, and we're going to end with relatives from Mr. Miller. And in the middle, we're going to have quite a few DNA people, smart investigators who are going to give us key pieces of evidence about what they collected from the scene, what they tested, and what the results came back at. And we've got quite a few. So it's a smart day. It's a day for smart people to really tune in and listen, because this is the good stuff. Tuesday, I turn yellow. Woohoo! Have an easy day. You're so close. So close. Can't wait for you to have that yellow courthouse. First was Clifton Miller. I think you're going to like how it ends today. So if you can stick around to the very end, I'd highly, highly recommend that. It's very good. Most of Doctor Who episodes dealing with tech, Atmos, Cyberman, everything. Yeah, it's a common theme. It's a common theme. And when I was a kid, the idea of even AI existing was somewhere off in the future. It's like it can't think for us. It's not smarter than us. And now we're like, it's creating more of it. It's cloning itself right now. We didn't tell it to, but my computer just made another computer, and now they're talking to each other. All right. Are we ready? Should we begin? I'm ready. This is going to be fun. Okay, let's go here. I've got my audio routed there. We're trying to improve the audio again today, try to get it stereo for you, even though it wasn't originally. There we go. Sorry about that little lip smack. I don't know where that came from. Here we go.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We are back on the record in C-250966, Nevada versus Thomas Randolph. May the record reflect Mr. Randolph is present with his attorney, deputy attorneys on behalf of the state. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I do want to apologize for the delay this morning. We did have some issues that we had to resolve outside of your presence. It was necessary for us to resolve those issues so that we didn't have to take up any more of your time this afternoon. But I do appreciate your patience, and I just want to apologize to you. No one here was in any way thinking your time wasn't valuable, but we had to get that resolved so we can go forward this afternoon.
Breathe, lady, breathe.
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Clifton Miller.
Clifton Miller. Hey, Mrs. R.A. I told everyone about how you were going to get me spicy maple pork and pickles. forgot cakes, boo.
The testimony you're about to give in this action will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please be seated. If you could state and spell your name for the record, please.
Clifton R. Miller, Clifton Miller.
Thank you very much. So Ms. Berkeley, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Miller. How are you?
I'm fine.
Sir, back in 2008, were you living in Las Vegas?
Yes, I was.
Did you know someone by the name of Michael Miller?
Yes.
Are you related to him as like a family member?
Yes, my cousin.
Cousin?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Were you and Mr. Miller approximately the same age?
He's about 10 years older than me.
10 years older than you? When do you recall Mr. Miller coming to Las Vegas?
Right about December?
December of '07?
Yeah.
Okay. When he came to Las Vegas, did he live with you?
No, stay with my aunt and uncle.
Your aunt and uncle?
Yes.
Okay, and are they Billy and Vita Miller?
Yes, sir.
You were another family member that was out here in Las Vegas?
Yes.
Okay. When Mr. Miller came to Las Vegas, did you ever do any social things with him, like go out to dinner, that kind
Yeah,
of thing?
we hung out.
Okay. How frequently do you think it was that you guys would go out, like every weekend or?
Every other weekend.
Okay. Maybe twice a month then?
Yeah.
Okay. At that time, did you have, were you working detailing cars?
That was my job I had on the side.
Okay, you had multiple jobs.
Yeah, I had 2 jobs.
Okay.
Mike was killed
one
right
of your
after
jobs
Sharon was
doing
killed.
detailing cars?
Yes, it was.
Did Michael Miller ever come to work with you and help you do that?
Yeah, every now and again.
Was he a good worker? Did he work well with you?
Yeah. I mean, had to teach him everything, but he did well.
Okay. At some point while you were working with him or socializing with him, did you learn that he was associating with a person by the name of Thomas Randolph?
Yes.
And did you have any understanding as to whether there was a difference in age between Mr. Randolph and your cousin Michael?
Yes, he told me he was an older guy.
Older guy? I don't want to know, well, actually, let me ask you this first. How soon after Michael's
I don't wanna know.
arrival to Las Vegas did you start hearing about Mr. Randolph?
It was about 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
So that would be early January of '08?
Yeah, about 2 weeks in.
Okay. And I'm kind of looking for a yes or no question here. Was it your understanding that
Yes or no answer.
Mike was working as a handyman for Tom?
That's what I was told.
Okay. Did you have a different basis of knowledge to know that that wasn't actually what he was working
Yes.
as? Okay. And would you describe your cousin as a person who's like a handy person who knew how to build things?
Definitely not.
Okay. Was it your understanding that your aunt and uncle believed that Michael was working as a handyman?
They did.
When you had conversations with your cousin Michael, I don't want to know the content of the conversations, but did you ever advise him to stay away from Tom?
Yes.
Would that have been on one occasion or multiple?
Multiple.
Do you have any sense of how often Michael and Tom would communicate based on your interactions with Michael?
Several times a week.
Do you recall Mr. Randolph or Tom ever using your cell phone in order to get a hold of Michael?
Yes, one time.
And I assume you just passed the phone over to your cousin?
He wasn't with me at the time.
Okay. Did your cousin Mike ever express to you, sort of towards the end of his life, that he was going to come into some money?
No, I didn't think he expressed that to me.
Okay.
Oops.
Did you ever advise your cousin against house sitting for Tom?
Yes.
Did you do that pretty strenuously, like that's not a good idea?
Every time I talked to him, I told him I wouldn't do it.
Okay. Did you ever suggest to your cousin or warn him, telling him that you thought he might get shot?
Yes.
It's a premonition.
Well, let me ask you this. Was there a point in time when you kind of pulled away or started spending less time with your cousin?
Yes.
And would that have been in the...
Towards the, maybe a month before he was killed.
Okay. And was that because of his relationship with Tom?
Most definitely.
You had a girlfriend at that time?
Yes, my children's mother.
And she didn't want to hang out with Michael anymore because of the relationship?
She didn't want me hanging out.
Okay. When you were around your cousin, Mike, did he ever appear to you to have a lot of money?
No.
In relation to Michael's death, how long before that was the last time you saw him in person?
Saw him in person, it was about a month.
They can lead until they get objections.
When was sort of the last time you spoke to him, if you recall, in relation to his death?
I want to say about at least 2 weeks.
About 2 weeks?
Yeah.
During that conversation, were you under the impression that he was still hanging out with Mr. Randolph?
He told me exactly they were out right then.
Okay. Did you hear something that suggested to you where they were at?
Yeah, shooting.
Like a shooting range?
Well, I wouldn't say a range, but it was somewhere shooting.
Okay. In that conversation, how did that end between yourself and your cousin?
I told him basically I was disappointed he was still hanging out with the guy, and I hung up on him.
Okay. Court's indulgence. Thank you, sir. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor. Cross.
It's only leading to hearsay if the opposing counsel objects. Yes. They're sitting on their hands over there where they had some opportunities.
Good afternoon, sir. Fair to say that you told police that you never actually physically saw Thomas Randolph at all?
Never.
And you never saw a woman named Sharon Randolph, did you?
Never.
You advised against house sitting, is that right?
Yes.
Because you learned that maybe he was going to house sit. Is that right? That Mike was going to house sit for Thomas?
I advised against it because if anything gets broken,
I didn't ask you why you advised against it. I'm saying that you advised against it, and that was because Mike said that he may be house sitting.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
The judge ruled on these previously that these statements by Mike would be admissible because of the...
Out at the shooting range, you didn't like Mike out at the
exception.
shooting range. Do you remember talking about you were concerned about people with scopes and rifles, and do you remember saying anything like this?
No.
Okay. You were frightened that he was out there shooting in the desert with Thomas, and you didn't like that.
I didn't like that.
But you never met Thomas, right?
Never.
And you never met Sharon?
Never.
Did you also, at one point, learn that Thomas had a lot of guns in a safe?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Nothing else, Your Honor. Thank you.
Do the ladies and gentlemen of the jury have any questions for this witness? Okay, seeing no response. Sir, you are excused. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Today.
The bailiff was like headed up before the jury even had a chance to raise their hand. He's like, "You're done. You're done."
Next witness, Your Honor, is Jennifer Brown.
All right, now I think we get into forensics. A lot of smart ladies in a row here. That witness was instructed to walk a careful line to make sure he didn't mention a possible relationship or suspicion of a relationship. Thank you for folding that down. That's great.
Jennifer, Jenniffer, Brown, Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Do you guys remember the song? Oh, Jenny.
I am a forensic scientist
Brown.
with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Forensic Lab in the DNA section.
How long have you
Smothers
worked
Brothers,
as
way
a
back.
forensic scientist for Metro?
16 years.
And what is your educational background that allows you to work as a forensic scientist?
I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in molecular biology from the University of California, San Diego.
And when you started working for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, was that the first forensic lab that you worked at?
No, I previously worked at the Arizona Department of Public Safety Forensic Lab in DNA for 6 years.
Okay, and as someone who works in the DNA lab in Arizona or for Metro, what does that mean that you do on a day-to-day basis?
As a forensic scientist in casework, some of the responsibilities include analyzing evidence, examining them and looking for blood, semen, saliva, anywhere where DNA might be deposited, including areas where someone may have drank out of something or touched something or wore something, and then taking that on and getting a DNA profile, and then comparing those profiles to a known standard or known standards in the case, writing a report, and then possibly testifying in court about it.
Okay. And how many times do you think you've been called upon to testify as an expert in the area of DNA analysis and comparison?
Probably about 20 in a district court and 30 total with grand jury and other things.
Okay. You were working in this same capacity back in 2008 and 2009?
Yes, I was a casework analyst back then, yes.
Okay. And do you actually have a different position now within the lab?
Yes, I'm currently a database DNA analyst, so I run DNA samples every day on arrestee samples in the state or in the southern Nevada area.
Okay. Back then you were doing casework, meaning dealing with evidence that was impounded by crime scene analysts and that sort of thing?
Yes.
Okay. Can you just give us an overview before we start with the actual testing and analysis that you did? Can you give us an overview of what DNA is?
Yes. DNA is like a genetic blueprint for life. It's inherited from your parents, so it's the way information is passed on from generation to generation. It's in many cells throughout your body, and you get half your DNA from your mom and half from your dad, and it's unique to individuals with the exception of identical twins.
Okay. And so if I understand your answer that you just gave, a person's DNA profile is part of what they inherit from their biological mother and biological father?
Yes.
And are those profiles unique amongst different people?
Yes, with the exception of identical twins, they are unique to each individual.
What are good sources of DNA profiles for forensic scientists like yourself?
Body fluids are excellent sources, such as blood, saliva, or semen. You can also get things off something somebody wore, so skin cell contact on things, and touch DNA, such as holding on to items or opening items and things like that.
Okay. And you mentioned touch DNA. If you touch a particular surface, does that necessarily mean that someone could later come by, swab that surface, and develop a DNA profile from it?
Not necessarily. It's going to depend on how much DNA you leave in that contact. If you have just kind of a brief contact with something, like maybe you're walking through the door and you touch it briefly, you might not leave very much DNA behind. But if you are, say, opening a jar of jelly or something and there's force and friction involved, you might be more likely to leave more DNA behind.
Okay. And is that, that would be like with touch DNA. Are there factors that affect whether or not you're able to get a DNA profile off an item of evidence in a crime scene, say blood or something like that? Are there environmental factors or things like that?
Yes, things can be degraded sometimes, and also, especially with touch DNA, if you imagine that door over there and we tried to swab it, there would be a lot of DNA on there, and that would be difficult to get a DNA profile that we'd be able to make any conclusions on.
Okay. So in the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department lab, the work that you were doing back in 2008 and 2009 would be taking items of evidence that had been impounded and seeing if a DNA profile could be generated from an item of evidence that maybe had blood on it or something?
Yes.
And then how are known profiles of individuals developed? Like, what is a buccal swab?
So a buccal swab is just, and buccal is B-U-C-C-A-L. It's just the inside skin cells of your cheek, and that's how we get most of our known standards these days. Is they take swabs of the cheek swabs of people, and that's how we get our standards.
So if you take a buccal swab of an individual, that profile would be the same as if you, like, say you had the blood sample of an individual. The profile of each person is the same, whether the source would be a buccal swab or like blood or something like that?
Yes.
Typically, I think you said that the samples are in the form of buccal swabs because that's probably an easier sample
Starts
to
at
obtain.
4
Yes,
p.m.
it used to be
Eastern
blood,
time
but it's
today.
less invasive and it's more common these days.
Okay, and so from a buccal swab, you get a known profile identified to a particular individual?
Yes.
Okay, and then you can compare those known profiles to the profiles developed from items of evidence if you're able to get a profile?
Yes.
Okay, and is that sort of the work that you were doing back in 2008?
Yes.
Can you explain for the members of the jury, like, when you were doing that, like, what happens? How does the piece of evidence even get to you in the lab in order to do your work?
So when we get a request, it's usually from a detective, and then we will call up the evidence. The large evidence vault is off-site, so we call the evidence up and they bring it to us the next day, and we get it from our evidence technicians in the lab. They store it in a secure location, and then they transfer it to us in the computer, and then we put it in our own lockers that are locked.
Okay, and then when you get it from your locker and you're developing or seeing if you can develop a profile off a particular item of evidence, are you actually like taking a swab of the blood, or how is that typically done on evidence items?
It could be either way. You can take a cutting of the samples, or you can take a swab.
Okay, and then you're comparing that to standards or known buccal swab profiles?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in this case, who did you have known samples from? Like, who did you have the buccal swabs from?
Sharon Randolph, Thomas Randolph, and Michael Miller.
Okay. So for each of those three individuals, you had a known DNA profile from them in the form of a buccal swab?
Yes.
And then you were asked to compare those with various items of evidence to see if you could find the source of the DNA or exclude them as a source?
Correct.
Did you, in working on or working with the evidence on this case, do you sometimes take photographs of the evidence?
Sometimes, yes.
May I approach, Your Honor? Yes. I'm sharing with you what's been marked as state's proposed 329. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
And there's a photo here. I'll just do it for you.
Yes.
Are all of these photos in this packet photos that you took as you were working with evidence?
That would be a stem cell.
Yes.
State moves to admit 329.
Any objection to 329?
No, Your Honor.
329 will be admitted.
So, in order to do your work, is a request made by usually a detective for you to do a comparison with certain items of evidence?
Yes.
And in this case, did you do two separate reports?
Yes.
And did it contain different items of evidence on each request?
Yes.
Okay. I want to start with the first one, and I'm going to put on the overhead states 329. And it looks like we're looking at, well, you tell me, what are we looking at?
A pair of gloves.
Okay. And so this was one of the items you examined for the presence of DNA?
Yes.
Okay. And what part did you concentrate on, if you recall?
I examined the two gloves, and I noticed on the left glove there was some red-brown staining, and so I did the testing on those.
Okay. I'm going to flip to the second page of this exhibit. And back up just a little bit. What's depicted in these two photographs?
The areas on the glove that I did the sampling and testing on.
Okay. And what were your findings with regard to these gloves?
May I refer to my report?
If with the court's permission.
You don't remember? Just kidding.
So, for the left glove, I did some preliminary testing for blood. It's a chemical test, and they indicated that the three stains that I was looking at could be blood. And so I took swabbings of those samples, and I took them on for DNA, and I obtained partial and full profiles that were consistent with Michael Miller.
Now, in your testing, do you ever have indications that there's more than one person's DNA from an item of evidence?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay. In this particular case, was there an indication of that or just a single source profile?
It was just a single source profile. When I was testing, all I tested was the stains on the glove.
Okay. And I believe I heard you say that those blood stains were consistent with Michael Miller?
Yes.
In your work as a DNA analyst, do you generate statistics or give some sense of how rare his DNA profile is, or how do you contextualize your results?
In this case, at the time, when we had an item of evidence that was believed to have been taken off of a person, something they wore, we were not doing statistics at that time with those particular items.
Okay, fair enough. So the profile you get from the blood, you compare it to the buccal swab profile from Michael Miller, and it's consistent?
Yes.
Kelly, hope you're having a great vacation. Can't wait for you to get back. Have fun.
Did you also, I'm flipping to the next page of that exhibit, did you also examine a red sweatshirt?
Yes.
And what were your findings with regard to the sweatshirt?
I tested 6 areas of staining on the exterior of the sweatshirt. They all presumptively tested as positive for blood, and I got full and partial profiles that were consistent with Michael Miller.
So I want to just zoom in just a little bit on this exhibit. There's some circles on the red sweatshirt, right?
Yes. Yes.
And is that indicating areas where you took sampling from?
Yes.
Okay. And if I understood your last answer, the profile that you got from this red sweatshirt for blood was consistent again with Michael Miller?
Yes.
In addition to, actually, let me just show you the next picture.
Cheryl, I thought I got this one. No, the jury does not know that this is the second trial.
Looking at this next page, it looks like it's the sleeve of the sweatshirt. Is that right?
Yeah, so it was just more specific areas that I tested on the sweatshirt.
Okay, same results though?
Yes, all the 6 stains were the same.
Okay. I'm now showing you the last page of that exhibit, and it looks like, well, we've had this item of evidence previously identified as a .38 special revolver. What did you do with that item of evidence?
I examined the item of evidence looking for any possible staining on it. I tested 3 areas on it, and they were all negative for blood, and I did not do anything else with it. Okay.
In this first report, were you also asked to analyze a sexual assault kit of Sharon Randolph?
Yes.
And what did you find what are the contents of that kit?
So that's where her buccal swab kit was. There were cervical swabs, vaginal swabs, rectal swabs, and oral swabs. And there was also finger swabs.
Okay.
Don't get those mixed up.
With regard to those swabs, what were your findings?
So for the cervical, vaginal, rectal, and oral, they were all sperm negative. The finger swabs, I did not test any sort of presumptive testing on it. But all the profiles I obtained were either full or partial profiles that were consistent with Sharon Randolph.
Okay.
No foreign profiles or male DNA was detected.
Okay, so maybe not surprising, Sharon Randolph's DNA comes from Sharon Randolph.
Correct.
Okay. That was one of the reports that you generated in this case. Were you actually asked to do a second report examining different items of evidence?
Yes, I was.
And did those items of evidence include 2 Walmart bags and a black ski mask?
Yes.
Okay. The Walmart bags, were they plastic, kind of like the bags that we get from the store?
Yes, they were.
And do you remember what area it was of the bag that was tested or analyzed?
I did a swabbing of the handles.
Okay, so sort of you tell me, what do you do to get the sample?
Where, where you would carry like a plastic bag from Walmart, I would take a damp swabbing of that handle area.
Okay, and it's from there that you generate a profile?
Yes.
With regard to, I guess we'll separate the bags. One of the bags was impounded as item number 17, and one of them was item 18 by the crime scene analyst, right?
Yes.
You assigned different lab numbers for your own tracking.
Yes.
But we'll stick with the crime scene numbers just for
okay.
With regard to what was item 17 within the crime scene, can you tell the members of the jury what your findings were?
Yes, the DNA profile obtained from the Walmart bag is consistent with a mixture of at least 3 people. Michael Miller cannot be excluded as the major contributor to the Walmart bag, and the estimated frequency of the major DNA profile in the population is rarer than 1 in 650 billion. Identity is assumed.
Okay, and can I just stop you there? Can you explain that statistic a little bit so that
Slow down there,
the jury
sister.
understand what that
numbers?
means?
Yes, so the probability of finding the profile that I found, the major profile on the Walmart bag, the probability of finding that in just randomly in the general population is rarer than 1 in 650 billion. At the time, the world population was 6.5 billion, and so it was 100 times the world population. And when that happens, and we have a statistic, at the time we were doing identity, meaning because the profile of Michael Miller matched that major profile, we were saying identity is assumed.
Okay.
Hang on, world population in 2008 was 6.5 billion.
The major profile.
Is that right?
That's correct.
So there's indications of multiple sources of DNA or multiple profiles on that item of evidence?
Yeah, there's at least 3, probably more.
Okay, at least 3, probably more people's DNA on that bag.
That's correct.
Okay, and this would be like touch DNA.
This is why I bring my own bags to Walmart.
I'm assuming.
The
DNA
major
all over the place.
profile, though, is identity assumed to Michael Miller.
Correct.
Okay. With regard to the minor profile, did you compare that to the other 2 known buccal swabs that you had?
Yes. In this case, Thomas Randolph could not be excluded as a minor contributor to the mixture, and greater than 97.4% of individuals in the population are excluded as possible contributors to the mixture.
Okay, and 97.4 sounds like a high number, but it is nowhere near the what you got in terms of results for the major profile, right?
That's correct.
Okay. He can't be excluded, but you wouldn't say he's necessarily included either?
I wouldn't say 100% that he is on there, but he could not be excluded.
Okay. With regard to the second Walmart bag, which is item 18 in our crime scene, did you do the same type of testing on the handles, I should say?
I did.
Okay. And what were your findings there?
The DNA profile obtained from the Walmart bag is consistent with a mixture of at least 3 individuals. Michael Miller cannot be excluded as the major contributor to the mixture. The same statistic, the estimated frequency of the major DNA profile in the population is rarer than 1 in 650 billion. Identity is assumed.
Okay, so the lab would say we're assuming that Michael Miller's DNA is on that second Walmart bag?
Is the major contributor, yes.
Okay. With regard to the profile of Thomas Randolph, were you able to exclude him from that bag?
No, he was not excluded. He could not be excluded as a minor contributor, and approximately 1 in 7 individuals in the population could be included as possible contributors to that mixture.
So that 1 in 7 isn't a real discriminating statistic, is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay, so like if we count up some of our jurors, 1 in 7 could be consistent with some of the results in the mixture, or how would you say it?
Statistically, it's possible.
Okay.
It's definitely not a definitive statistic. It doesn't mean he's definitely there. It just means he couldn't be excluded.
Okay. Now the last thing is a ski mask. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. What were your findings with regard to the ski mask?
The DNA profile, and I'll just say I did a swabbing of the inside of it.
Okay.
And the DNA profile obtained from the black ski mask is consistent with a mixture of at least 3 individuals. Michael Miller cannot be excluded as a possible contributor to the mixture. Approximately 1 in 4 individuals in the population are included as a possible contributor to the mixture.
Now, with the ski mask, you said Michael Miller can't be excluded. Is it the same, like identity assumed? I mean, is it that kind of statistic, or how is this one? How would you describe your results on this one?
This one was also a mixture of at least 3 people, but there was no major profile. There was no DNA profile that had more than others, and so I could not pull out a major in this case. And so while he is included, it's kind of a similarly not great statistic, which is approximately 1 in 4 individuals could be included.
Okay, and I think you said the mixture, at least from your results at the time, appeared to be consisting of at least 3 individuals.
That's correct.
Could be more.
Could be more.
Okay, but On occasion, does sometimes, well, is this unusual for evidence to present at the lab where you just get a lot of data and a lot of indications of multiple profiles and you just can't separate out a major or a minor?
It definitely happens.
Okay.
You want me to read the last part of the
Yes.
conclusion? Thomas Randolph can be excluded as a possible contributor to the mixture.
And did that conclude the testing that you did on items of evidence in this case?
It did, yes.
So Tommy didn't
Thank
wear the
you.
mask.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. Okay, I'm just going to run through these really quickly with you. You tested some gloves, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you did that because a homicide detective requests that you do that, right?
Yes.
Isn't that, for the most part, in murder cases, how you get the items and decide to do the testing? In other words, you don't decide to do this testing. You're not out at the scene and don't know the evidence. Is that right?
Correct. They would tell us what they would like to have tested, yes.
You're a scientist.
Yes.
When homicide detectives say, hey, test this, test that, that's what you do.
Correct.
And that's what you did in this case.
It is, yes.
Do you remember who the test or who the requester was?
I don't remember, but I can look.
Could you please? Would it refresh your memory?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Let's refresh her memory.
This is the first report.
Let's go through the first one.
Yeah.
Yes.
So with the gloves, looks like Dino Kelly.
Okay. And then the second one?
Yeah, we're going to hear more about masks.
Same, Dino Kelly.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so on the gloves, what we know is that on these gloves that we have seen, we know that has the DNA profile of Michael Miller, correct?
Yes, on the blood stains that I tested, yes.
Okay. And we also know that it was not, you didn't go any farther. You didn't test it against Thomas Randolph, or you did?
I got single social profiles that were consistent with Michael Miller, so no, I don't think I compared it to Thomas Randolph.
Okay. So with regard, well, actually, didn't you exclude Mr. Randolph on the gloves?
I mean, it's not specifically stated in the report, but on those stains, it was consistent with Michael Miller, so that's where we left it.
Okay. Now, with regard to the Walmart bags, there were two of them, right?
Yes.
And what we know is on both Walmart bags, the handles, identity is assumed as to Michael Miller's DNA being on both handles.
Yes, as the major contributor.
Okay. And then you said that on item 17, 97% of the population could be excluded as a minor contributor, but Mr. Randolph could not.
Correct, 97.4.
Okay, and then it's the same with item 18, the second Walmart bag. We know it's Michael Miller, assumed, right?
Yes.
And that Mr. Randolph could be 1 in 7 in the population can be included as a minor contributor, and he's in that 1 in 7.
Correct.
So if somebody said that they had touched those Walmart bags, that could be consistent with leaving your DNA, touch DNA, couldn't it?
Correct.
Okay. Then we have that ski mask. Mr. Randolph is excluded, you said.
Yes.
How many samples did you get from that ski mask?
I took one swabbing of the inside of it.
That was it?
Yep.
Were you ever asked at any point, take another one, or take other points around, maybe at the bottom or in the inside? You just did one?
I took one damp swabbing of the entire inside, yes.
And you could not exclude Michael Miller?
Entire inside.
That's correct.
But you could exclude Thomas Randolph?
That's correct.
Now, I'm only talking about the mask, this ski mask.
I agree, Jacob.
Were you ever asked to test DNA of a man or a person named Billy Miller?
I was not.
That was a relative of Mike's, I believe.
That concludes cross-examination.
Just briefly, I think you just said on cross-examination that to attempt to get DNA from the ski mask, you took one swab of the entire inside?
Yes.
Why did you do it that way?
To determine the wearer was what I was aiming for.
And if you do the entire inside, was it your scientific opinion that that would be the sort of the best bet of getting some DNA material in order to test?
Yes.
I mean, rather than the outside or? the back or something
Yes,
like
unless
that?
specifically requested, sorry, yes.
And on the, sort of the face side of the inside, is that where you tested?
That's where I focused, but yeah, the inside.
Would that be a better source of potential DNA material than the back of a mask?
It could be, yes, because there could be, sweat and saliva, but you could, depending on if the person is bald or leaves skin cells, it could be, anywhere inside. And also because when I received it, they were together, both sides.
Oh,
They could have rubbed off on each other.
Okay, but that's where you swabbed and then you got the results of at least 3 individuals?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any follow-up on those, John?
No, Your Honor.
Do the ladies and gentlemen of the jury have any questions for this witness? Okay? Here's the first question. I'll finish the paper.
We have at least one jury question. And we have noise. I'll turn that down here for a minute. Okay, so this is the first of the DNA witnesses. We're going to have a couple coming in here. Watching the reusable plastic bag discussion go on in chat. It's funny. They got brought up in court. Walmart bags, once again, Walmart got dragged into another court case. It happens a lot. Tommy forgot this is nap time. He's supposed to sleep right now. The only chance he can get a quick little bit of shut-eye. There he goes. Oh, no. Pen's going again. They're talking over the question. The jurors submit the question. The lawyers get to look at it, and then the judge determines if it's proper and will ask the question. So, looks like just one, maybe two.
Okay. Ma'am? Did you see any bullet holes on the sweatshirt?
I don't believe I really looked at that or looked for that. I can't say.
If a person was wearing a mask on their face, would you expect to be able to identify a major profile from that item?
It would just depend on
Good
how many
question.
people have worn it before, how many people have touched it. It would just depend. If it was the only person who had ever worn it, perhaps.
Were you the only forensic analyst on this case?
No.
Why didn't you do a touch DNA test on the 38 special?
I was asked to look for blood.
Okay. Any follow-up based on the jury question, Ms. Gregory?
Once you swab it for blood, you've kind of collected, when you swab it for blood, that would sort of alter the item of evidence?
About the gun? Or?
Yes.
I did the testing on it. It would just depend on where the stains were, but I wasn't specifically requested to test for handler.
Okay. Was it blood negative?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any follow-up, Ms. Rose?
Yes. On the ski mask, you said that the major profile, or that Michael Miller was included 1 in 4. Is that right?
That was the number, yes.
Okay. And you only tested it in one place?
Yes, the inside.
And it just depends. Sometimes you get DNA, sometimes you don't.
That's correct, and sometimes there's multiple people that can contribute to an item.
Okay, thank you very much.
State anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Do the ladies and gentlemen of the jury have any follow-up questions of this witness? Okay, seeing no response, ma'am, you are excused. Thank you very much for your testimony here today.
Great job, Jennifer.
State and we'll call your next one.
Thank you. The state calls Allison Rubino.
Allison Rubino is taking a stand, another DNA analyst. So we can pin that message. Thank you, Amber, for that. 25% of the world would match the DNA on the mask. Could be included, possible source. It's a sharp little suit. Looks good.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Please be seated. If you could state and spell your name for the record, please.
My name is Allison Rubino, ALLISON RUBINO.
State whatever you're doing.
Thank you. How are you employed?
I am a forensic scientist in the biology DNA detail at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Forensic Laboratory.
And what is your educational background that allows you to work as a forensic scientist?
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry from the University of Scranton in Pennsylvania, and I have a Master's of Science in Forensic Science from the University of New Haven in Connecticut.
How long have you worked in Metro's forensic lab?
I've been with Metro since January of 2014, so almost 10 years.
And during that 10-year period, have you been called upon to testify as an expert in DNA analysis and comparison?
Yes.
Do you have a ballpark of how many times?
I'm going to say close to 75.
Okay. We've had your colleague, Jen Brown, testify before you, so we're not going to go through all the, the explanation of DNA and how it's working in a forensic setting. In this case, did you prepare 2 reports with regard to this investigation or this case?
Yes, I did.
The first one concerned an item of evidence, is that fair?
Yes.
And can you describe for the members of the jury what that item of evidence was?
I was asked to analyze and conduct analysis on a knife.
And, to your knowledge, was that knife found in the crime scene?
As far as I know, the request was a knife. It had a wooden handle, and I believed etched on the blade in some part was Pillsbury.
Okay. And so you don't actually go out to the crime scene, the knife itself is brought to you?
Correct.
And after it's been impounded by a crime scene analyst?
Whether it be a crime scene analyst or an officer on the scene, it's impounded and booked by someone other than myself.
Okay.
Is it like a bagel
and
knife?
Did you, in fact, conduct testing on that item of evidence?
Yes, I did.
Were you able to generate a DNA profile from that knife?
So with regards
Welcome,
to this
BBE.
knife, I ended up taking 2 samples for DNA processing, one from the blade of the handle and one from the blade of the knife and one from the handle of the knife.
And what were your results?
So I did not obtain any DNA from the swab from the blade of the knife, but I did get a DNA profile from the handle of the knife. And for the handle of the knife, it was a mixture of 3 contributors, at least one of which was male, and then a comparison was made between that DNA profile and then the 3 individual references that were submitted for the case.
And the 3 individual references were Sharon Randolph, Thomas Randolph, and Michael Miller?
Correct.
Were you able to exclude any of the 3 as being a possible source of DNA on the knife handle?
Michael Miller was classified as excluded as being a part of that DNA profile.
Okay, and what about Sharon Randolph or Thomas Randolph?
Both Sharon Randolph and Thomas Randolph were classified as being individually included as a part of that DNA profile.
So from that knife handle, it indicates to you that there is a mixture, but you said of at least 3.
Of 3, yes.
And of that 3, you cannot exclude Sharon Randolph or Thomas Randolph of being a contributor to that?
Include them.
Correct. They were classified as included.
Okay. Now, were you, well, I think you said that you've been at the lab since 2014?
That's correct.
From 2014 to 2023, has DNA testing become more sensitive?
Yes, it has.
And are scientists like yourself able to generate DNA profiles off smaller and smaller amounts of DNA?
Yes, a lot of our techniques can get more sensitive and enhanced over time, just like any other field that we're working with. If you look at how your cell phones have progressed over the past 10 years and what you've been able to do with that, or our computers. So just with the evolving technology in different aspects of our life, in the forensic field, we undergo similar enhancements as our technology increases.
The knife was out on the table.
Can you explain to the members of a jury
wasn't used.
what an extract is?
So an extract comes off from part of the DNA process, that initial phase, when we're isolating DNA from all of the other stuff within our sample. We're left with a tube of liquid, and that liquid is an extract. At the laboratory, we store extracts from cases over time for further processing if necessary.
And in this case, were you asked to look at extracts from items of evidence that were originally tested by Jennifer Brown?
Yes, I was.
And were they extracts from 2 Walmart bags and a ski mask?
Yes, the first 2 were swabbings from handles from Walmart bags, and then the third was from a swabbing of a ski mask.
Okay, so let's talk about the Walmart bags. You can talk about whichever one you want first, but what were your findings with regard to those?
So in regards to the first Walmart bag, I believe is my lab item 5, and then Jen Brown's original lab item 6. I obtained a mixture of at least 5 contributors, and at least 2 of which were male. Due to the complexity of this particular DNA profile, no other conclusions could be made with respect to any comparisons.
And what does that mean? Does it just mean there's so much data there that it's uninterpretable, or help us understand that?
So within our lab, the technologies that we use undergo certain validation procedures to make sure that they are in line and appropriate for our laboratory work. In regards to examining mixture DNA profiles, our interpretation, essentially interpretation threshold, stops once we see that a mixture might be of 5 or more. They're deemed too complex, and therefore we don't make any further conclusions. So essentially, we can't do anything further with that DNA profile.
So if Jennifer Brown did her testing and she and she couldn't exclude someone as being the source of DNA on that swabbing from the Walmart bag, how do we fit that with your findings?
So essentially, there are 2 independent interpretations. Jen Brown's was done with the technology that we had back at the time she initially looked at those samples. When they were asked to be redone to see if our current procedures and protocols could further interpret the mixture DNA profile, the sensitivity of the chemistries that we use uncovered additional information that unfortunately is not suitable for me interpreting the profile I obtained from that sample.
And this was done this year, correct?
Correct.
And so this was sort of with the most sensitivity that the lab has at this point?
Correct.
And if I'm understanding you correctly, the way the data presented, there's nothing else that can be done to interpret it other than saying it's at least 5 individuals who could be contributing to that DNA profile?
At least 5, correct.
Could be more?
Could be.
Okay. Are those results the same for both of the Walmart bags?
So the second Walmart bag was also a mixture of 5 contributors. In this case, I could only say at least 1 of which was male. But that, again, this profile was also too complex to make any further conclusions.
Okay. And then how about the extract from the ski mask? What were your findings there?
So for that particular sample, I obtained a DNA profile of at least 5 contributors, and at least 2 of which were male. Unfortunately, due to the complexity, no additional conclusions could be made regarding that DNA profile.
Okay, and is it the same thing where nothing more can be done, it's just how the data presents?
Correct.
I don't know that answer.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
I guess it would depend on the sample and how it was protected. You know, it's possible, I think, if it was very well protected after it was deposited.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You don't dispute what Jennifer Brown's findings were, do you?
I can only discuss my findings and interpretations. Jen's are independent on her own from her work.
Okay, so basically what I'm asking you is, you're not coming in here to say that what she did was inaccurate. You're just saying that you tried to get more information with more modern technology. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. The newer DNA techniques come with new statistical criteria, isn't that right?
What kind of criteria are you referring to?
In order to come up with identity assumed, you have to have different statistics, is that right?
Currently, we don't use that wording of identity assumed. We use a different statistical calculation for any of the comparisons within our reports.
And what is that?
We use what's called a likelihood ratio.
So when Ms. Brown said identity was assumed, that is something that was used back in 2008, but not today?
Correct.
In today's more sensitive interpretations, with 5 or more contributors, you cannot or will not reach an identity assumed finding. Is that what you're saying?
We will never reach an identity assumed because we don't use that wording, but we do all of our work based on validations of our procedures and through the use of our technical leader and our technical system. Interpreting a profile of at least 5 contributors was not deemed to be appropriate for the laboratory work that we're conducting. So it was made with those limitations when we took on some of this newer technology to interpret mixtures of 2 contributors, 3 contributors, and 4 contributors.
It's not unusual that somebody who would have kitchen knives would have their DNA on the kitchen knife, on the handle. Is that right?
I don't talk about how the DNA got there, but I could see how someone's DNA would be on any utensil in their own home.
Okay. Cross. That concludes cross.
So just briefly, Ms. Rubino, the science of DNA, like everything else, is evolving.
Correct.
And the likelihood ratio and the way scientists like yourself report out data now is based on the standards in 2023?
Correct.
And those are standards that are applicable to labs that are accredited?
Correct.
And the LVMPD lab is an accredited lab?
Yes.
And the way it's reported with the likelihood ratio, is that a more, I guess, conservative way of reporting out data?
It's within our software. It's the statistical calculation that was, I guess, embedded into the software when calculating if someone could be individually included, excluded, or uninformative.
Okay, and so you want to report out your data consistent with the parameters of the software you're using?
Correct.
Okay, and it's just different levels of sensitivity and actually a different way of, the software is different now than it was obviously in 2008 and 2009?
Correct.
Thank you.
Hey, Holly, what time should we be over? If we came up 5, would they be ready? That's awesome. Congratulations.
Okay, seeing no response, ma'am, you are excused. Thank you very much for your testimony here today.
Okay, what did we just see right there? Oh, it's the bailiff right there. Okay,
The
he was
next
right in front
witness,
of
Your
the
Honor, is Kimberly Dannenberger.
Kimberly. Tell you, some smart women back to back to back. When else have we had DNA witnesses that have been this concise? What do I think X-Files when I see her?
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Please be seated. If you could state your name for the record, please.
Kimberly Dannenberger, Kimberly DANNENBERGER.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
You are the third of 3 DNA analysts to testify in front of our jury this afternoon, so I'm not going to go through all the explanation of DNA and how it's used in a forensic
Basically,
setting.
we're DNA experts already.
Just
answer the
what
question.
your educational background is.
Yes, I have a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas in cell and molecular biology. And I also completed an approximate 16-month training program within the biology DNA section where I went over all the functions of my job that I currently do.
Okay, and your job is
We don't know
you're
the
a forensic
results,
scientist?
but
I am, yes.
court's proceeding.
And you might have said it, and I apologize if I missed it, but how long have you worked at the DNA lab?
I have been in the DNA lab for approximately 12 years, and I've been doing casework for approximately 11 years.
And during that 11 years, have you been called upon to testify as an expert in DNA analysis and comparison?
Yes.
In this particular case, were you asked to look at some evidence that was impounded by a crime scene analyst?
Yes.
And do you know who Randy McPhail is? Or do you know who the crime scene analyst is?
It was Randy McPhail.
Okay. And what were the items of evidence that you were asked to look at?
May I refer to my report so I don't misspeak?
Would that be okay, Your Honor?
Yes.
So I was asked to look at various items of evidence within the same envelope. The first one was a sample of apparent hairs and tissue. The next one was swab of apparent yellow fatty tissue. The third one was swab from the staining on the north hall of the east-west hallway. The fourth one was apparent tissue from the east wall of the north-south hallway. And then the fifth one was swab from staining on the west wall of the north-south hallway above the bathroom door.
Okay. And you had known sample or known profiles to compare your findings to?
Yes, there were known profiles within this case. They were previously generated, so I used the data that was previously generated to make comparisons to the evidence that I worked.
Okay. And those known profiles were of Sharon Randolph, Thomas Randolph, and Michael Miller?
Yes.
Okay. So the first item I think that you described looking at was it was a hair and yellow tissue?
Yes.
Okay.
The first one I mentioned was sample of apparent hairs and tissue. That was from the AC vent in the ceiling above the north-south hallway.
Okay. Now, when we're talking about hair analysis and DNA, can you tell the members of the jury sort of what you're looking for when you're looking for a hair in order to do analysis?
So for the type of testing that we do in our laboratory, we need hair that has a possible root attached to it. So if we think of hair, it's a very thin kind of strand. We need something that has kind of a bulbous end on it, kind of a skin tag bulbous root. I do use a microscope to look for this. I'm not just using my naked eye. So under the microscope, I look at items that are potentially hair to determine, is it suitable to do the type of testing that we do in our laboratory, or is it not suitable?
And did you have a suitable sample upon which to do an analysis?
Yes.
And that was on like just one hair, or how would you describe how you did it?
So for this case, I did look at this item of evidence. So again, it was a sample of apparent hairs and tissue. So there were what were described by the crime scene analyst as apparent tissue and hairs. So I looked at it under the microscope to determine, were any of the hairs within this sample possibly suitable for what we call STR testing, or short tandem repeat testing. In this case, I did find one hair that was suitable to at least take forward to attempt to generate a DNA profile. The other hairs that were attached within this sample, I determined to be not suitable for testing, so those were not taken forward. So for this item, only one was taken forward for hairs.
And what were your findings, or what were your results with regard to that hair?
With regard to the hair, so I am going to be referencing lab item 11.1, the apparent hair, that was consistent with one female. I'm sorry. Let me continue on.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sharon Randolph was individually included as a contributor to that sample. Thomas Randolph and Michael Miller were both excluded as contributors to that sample.
Okay. And did you look, when you generated your report, this was in 2023, is that fair?
Correct. My report was this year, yes.
Okay. Now, we've had some previous testimony that the way results were reported out changed from 2008 to 2023.
Okay.
Is that accurate in your mind? Like how DNA data is reported, like identity assumed versus likelihood ratios?
Yes. Our reports have evolved over the years as technology has evolved.
So your results would be reported out in what format? A likelihood ratio?
My statistics were a likelihood ratio statistic.
Okay. And can you explain to the members of the jury what that is?
A likelihood ratio is a statistic. It is the probability of the evidence. So for instance, in the sample I just gave you, that apparent hair, the probability of the profile generated, that's that single source female profile. What's the probability of that profile given two competing scenarios? So scenario 1 is that the profile came from Sharon Randolph, and scenario 2 is that the profile is some unknown random person that I have not tested.
And what were your findings with regard to that ratio analysis?
So for lab item 11.1, the probability of observing this DNA profile is approximately 2.00 septillion times more likely if it originated from Sharon Randolph than if it originated from an unknown random contributor. And septillion is a number with 24 zeros behind it.
Okay. Really big number.
That's a lot.
Septillion.
Compared to a million, yes.
Okay. And that was on the apparent hair reported to you as recovered from the AC vent in the ceiling?
Yes.
Okay. Did you look at another item of evidence?
Someone want to write that out in chat for me, and I'll tag it.
12?
I did, yes.
And were you able to generate a profile off of that item of evidence?
I need all the zeros. Let's see the zeros with the commas in the right spot.
Just for context for the jury.
So lab item 12 was a swab of apparent yellow fatty tissue from the AC vent in the ceiling above the north-south hallway. And again, that description is from the crime scene analyst.
Okay. And when you analyze that item of evidence, you were able to get a DNA profile from it and compare it to your known your known profiles?
Yes.
And what were your findings?
So the conclusions for lab item 12, number of contributors was 1 female. Sharon Randolph was individually included as a contributor to that sample. Thomas Randolph and Michael Miller were both excluded as contributors to that sample.
Okay. And was there a similar likelihood ratio that was generated with this this item of evidence?
Yes.
Okay. What was that?
So the probability of observing this DNA profile is approximately 100 million times more likely if it originated from Sharon Randolph than if it originated from an unknown random contributor, and a million is a number with 6 zeros behind it.
Okay. So a smaller number.
6 zeros?
It is, yes.
Okay.
But still big.
Did you attempt or did you look at any other items of evidence for this case?
Yes.
What else did you look at?
As mentioned earlier, there was, so lab item 13 was a swab from the staining on the north wall of the east-west hallway.
Okay. And did you, with regard to that, did you do any testing to determine whether or not it was presumptive positive for blood?
Lab item 13, I did, yes.
And what were your findings?
That item, the testing that I performed was negative presumptive blood test.
Okay. And was there another swab from a wall that you did presumptive blood testing on?
Yes, there was.
What was that one?
That was lab item 15, and that was a swab from the staining on the west wall of the north-south hallway above the bathroom door, and that item was negative presumptive blood test.
Okay. And so when you got the negative for blood, no further testing was done?
Those I actually did take forward through the entire processing steps.
So what did you get with regard to the first one?
So for lab item 13, it was taken forward to generate a DNA profile. The results for this item are the DNA profile obtained is consistent with at least 1 female contributor. Due to the limited nature of this profile, is unsuitable for interpretation. So I was able to generate a DNA profile, but there just was not enough data present for me to make any comparisons or conclusions after that.
And the one conclusion, though, that you were able to make is that there's
I don't know
at
what's
least
going to be
a
shown
female
on that one.
contributor.
We can try.
But for whatever reason, I guess I should say, the sample didn't generate enough data for you to make any further conclusions?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, with regard to the second wall sample, what were your findings there?
So for lab item 15, that second swab, this was taken through all the DNA processing steps. The conclusion for this one was a DNA profile was not obtained.
Okay. And what were your findings with regard to, I think, lab item 14?
So lab item 14 was apparent tissue from the east wall of the north-south hallway. Again, that description comes from the crime scene information. And lab item 14, the conclusions were it was consistent with one female contributor. Sharon Randolph was individually included as a contributor to that profile. Thomas Randolph and Michael Miller were both excluded as contributors to that profile.
And this is a swab from the wall?
This one for lab item 14 was apparent tissue from the east wall of the north-south hallway.
Okay. And were you able to generate a likelihood ratio for Sharon Miller versus not?
Yes.
And what was that?
So for lab item 14, the statistic, the probability of observing this DNA profile is approximately 36.3 octillion times more likely if it originated from Sharon Randolph than if it originated from an unknown random contributor. And octillion is a number with 27 zeros behind it.
Holy cow. Is that the biggest one so far?
It was consistent
27.
with Sharon Randolph, but the way you report it out is in that likelihood ratio, and it was octillion that time?
Yes.
Okay. I think, well, let me just ask this. In all of the testing that you did with the tissue and the hair, where you were able to get results, aside from the one where it was just female and you weren't able to do anything else, was all of that consistent with Sharon Randolph?
Yes. All the profiles where
It's
I
got
was
to be the
able to make
biggest number we've
comparisons
heard
were
from DNA
consistent with
before.
Sharon Randolph.
And to be fair, the comparisons had different likelihood ratios associated with them.
Correct.
And in your experience, is that unusual to get a different likelihood ratio on particular items of evidence collected from a crime scene?
It is not, because the likelihood ratios, again, are dependent on the actual evidence. So in some instances, a full profile may be generated, and in some instances, only a partial profile. So enough data is present for me to make comparisons, make conclusions, but there may not be data at all the locations.
Okay, and that's just kind of how the evidence presents?
Correct.
Thank you. I will pass the witness.
Yeah, we haven't got any smoking guns from any of this. It's basically, like Liven said,
Good
this
afternoon.
works for
How are
both
you?
sides.
Good, thank you.
Just have a few questions for you. The requester for all the analysis you did in this case is whom?
Based on my report, the requester listed is Dean O'Kelly.
Okay. Do you know Dean O'Kelly?
I do not.
Okay. The date of the work you performed that you just testified
They
to
don't
on
like Mr.
item
Kelly.
numbers 11 through 15 was when?
Referencing my report, so the dates of laboratory testing, the start date was June 27, 2023, and the end date was July 25th, 2023, and the report was distributed August 1st, 2023.
Okay, so just a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I want to talk to you specifically about two of the item numbers that you mentioned, specifically your lab item number 13. It's referenced in your report as an impound number 3. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. It purports to be a swab from the staining on the north wall of the east-west hallway. I'm assuming that particular location on the east-west hallway means nothing to you as an analyst in the lab, right?
It does not. That's taken directly from what crime scene had on the package.
Okay. You receive a package that has a description, yes?
Correct.
And that's a description that crime scene includes on the package.
Yes.
And on this particular package, your lab number 13, impound item 3, it's a swab, yes?
Yes.
In other words, in the field, a crime scene analyst can swab biological material and package it in such a way that you can receive it in the lab and test it.
Yes.
Okay. And this purports to be a swab from the staining on the north wall of the east-west hallway, right?
I don't know if it is.
You told us that you were able to obtain a partial profile, yes?
Correct.
Of a female, yes?
Yes.
You also told us that you did a presumptive test, right?
Yes.
And a presumptive test is one where you're able to do a test to see if it presumes it to be blood.
Correct. It's an indication that something possibly could be blood. It's not a confirmation that it is blood.
Right, so it presumes it's blood. You have to do further test, a confirmatory test to show that it is in fact blood.
We could, yes.
Okay. In this particular case, the presumptive test showed you that that swab in item number 13 wasn't blood, correct?
It was negative presumptive test for blood.
Okay. I want to talk to you then about item number 15.
There was no question
And
mark to
that
highlight.
purports to be, again, a swab, yes?
Correct, yes.
And that's a swab from staining on the west wall of the north-south hallway, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The jury's heard about the north-south hallway. It doesn't mean anything to you, but it probably means something to them. But that's where that swab is packaged, so you know which item we're referring to.
Correct. That's the information that crime scene had on the package in their report.
And as you sit here today, you would agree with me that when you did a presumptive test, it was presumptive negative for blood.
That is correct, yes.
And from that particular swab from the north-south hallway, you aren't able to obtain anybody's DNA at all, right?
Correct. The conclusions for that were a DNA profile was not obtained.
So as you sit here today, would you agree with me that you can't tell us whose DNA that was?
Correct. There was nothing that was even, the profile that was generated, if there was anything there, it was not above our threshold, so I could not make any conclusions. It was no DNA profile obtained.
And you can't even tell us it's blood, right?
Correct.
Okay. Can you tell us who took the swab?
It was impounded by crime scene analyst with personnel number 3326, who was Randy McPhail.
Okay. Did you test any swabs impounded by either a crime scene analyst, Jeff Smith, or a crime scene analyst, Chelsea Collins?
I did not, no.
Nothing further.
No, Your Honor, thank you. Okay, waiting for the jury to have any questions for this witness. Okay,
Yes.
seeing no questions,
No.
or excuse, thank you very much for your testimony.
Right, 3 DNA witnesses in a row. I really think that they're going to make static here. I really think that had Mike been shot the way that Mr. Randolph explained it in the walkthrough, that there would be blood in the hallway. The thing about the body, the human body, is the blood is on the inside, and it likes to stay on the inside unless there's a way for it to get out on the outside. And generally, the newer the way, there's the sleepy Randolph.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we are going to take our afternoon recess.
Good, I can explain the
During this
bleeding
recess,
part.
you must not discuss or communicate with anyone, including fellow jurors, in any way regarding the case or its merits, either by voice, phone, email, text, internet, or other means of communication or social media. You must not read, watch, or listen to any news or media accounts or commentary on the case.
What is
You must not
going
do
on?
any research, such as consulting dictionaries, using the internet, or using reference materials. You must not make any investigation, test the theory of the case, recreate any aspect of the case, or in any other way investigate or learn about the case on your own. You must not form or request any opinion regarding this case, so it's not submitted to you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 2:45. We'll be in recess till 3 o'clock.
He hasn't
All
stood
rise
up
for
yet.
the jury.
He has not stood up yet. Okay, blood on the inside, likes to stay there. It is under pressure. If you make a hole in the body, it likes to come out. Several of the holes that were made on his body were perforating holes, meaning there were a hole in the front and in the back, or in the back and in the front, depending on how the bullet went in. It would be very surprising. It would be very surprising if we did not see any bleeding, like immediately. It starts immediately. The blood pressure, as DMB puts it, you've heard about blood pressure. It is under pressure. It will come out. Your heart is pumping. It is, as long as the heart is still going, it's going to keep pumping that blood, and it will come out. So I can talk over the judge. Thank you for the permission, Red Pen. I'll do that next time. They're under break and sold, says Deebs. Yes, she's a quick speaker, especially with those memorized or recited things. Okay. It gives the whole spiel when they go just on a break. Yeah, 15-minute break. Your body is just a super soaker full of blood waiting for a nozzle. Yeah, it's not that it's going to spray out unless you hit a main, like an artery or something. but and then it definitely can. It can literally spray out of the body of anyone who's witnessed a major injury like that. You'll see just how powerful the heart is when it pumps that blood. But even if there's just a hole that just goes through and misses a lot of major arteries and veins, it still bleeds very quickly. I'd make a great teacher. I'd have to do samples. We'd have to have like volunteers and find some sort of a test dummy. 12 wants a soundbite. Duets with Brandy. We'll have to see if we can release our greatest hits album or something. I was reading online that the judge works as an auctioneer on the weekends. Is that a joke? Because she could. I would believe it. That's the defense are trying to imply he was traumatized during the walkthrough. Maybe his recall was off. I don't know. What we've heard about someone who's in that situation is they actually remember little details and things like that. That the trauma burns bits in your minds, not like makes everything a blur. But either way, we're gonna skip the rest of this 15-minute break. Let me just get that pulled up here. There we go.
Okay, we are back on the record. C250966, stated by Mr. Thomas Randolph. For the record, reflect that Mr. Randolph is present with his attorney, deputy district attorney, on behalf of the state. Do both parties stipulate to the presence of our jury?
Yes, we do.
State, you may call the next witness.
The next witness, Your Honor, is Vida Miller.
Okay.
Okay, we're back to family members of Mike Miller. This is Vida Miller. That's the wrong door. I'm not sure why you're looking at that one, Mr. Cameraman. There she is. Are those tiny dreads?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.
That is so much work. Holy cow.
State and spell your name for the record.
Vida Miller, V-I-D-A, Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mrs. Miller.
Hi.
How are you?
Nervous.
Blessed and highly favored.
Okay.
Blessed and highly favored.
Did you know someone by the name of Michael Miller?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you related to him?
Auntie by marriage.
Okay, so he's on
Great,
your husband's
yes.
side of the family?
Yes.
Said dreads.
And is your husband Mr. Billy Miller?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Michael Miller ever come to live at your house?
Yes.
Do you remember approximately when that was?
Christmas Eve.
Of 2007?
Yes.
Okay. He just came because he was like a family member and you let him stay there?
Yes.
When he was staying at your house, did he have his own room?
Yes, ma'am.
And did he kind of come and go as he pleased because he was a grown man?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I'm sorry, your voice is a little quiet.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just if you can pull it towards you, it might be easier. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. At that time, did you and your husband own a business?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the nature of the business?
Commercial cleaning. Office cleaning.
Office cleaning?
Yes, ma'am.
So you would go into offices at night and
Yes, ma'am.
do the service?
Yes, ma'am.
Did yourself or your husband ever bring Michael Miller along to help with the work?
Yes, ma'am.
Sometime after Michael arrived and was staying with you, did you meet an individual by the name of Thomas Randolph?
Yes, ma'am.
And who introduced you to him?
Michael.
Michael Miller?
Michael Miller.
Okay. Where was it that happened?
At our home, in our garage.
Okay. So Mr. Randolph had come to your house and Michael introduced him to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember how long after Michael arrived that you met Mr. Randolph?
Not exactly.
And that's fine. This is a while ago.
Ma'am.
Would it have been like weeks or months, or do you have any sense of that?
Maybe weeks.
Weeks? Okay. So shortly after that?
Yes.
Do you see Mr. Randolph in the courtroom today?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you describe what he's wearing today, please?
A light blue shirt. Yeah, blonde hair.
May the record reflect
Blonde
that
hair.
she has identified the defendant, Your Honor? Okay. You never became friends with Mr. Randolph, is that fair?
No, ma'am.
Did you see Mike interact with Mr. Randolph?
Just sitting at the mailboxes for hours.
And when you say sitting at the mailbox for hours, you weren't at the mailbox, right?
No, ma'am. My bathroom window faced the mailbox, my front door faced the mailbox, and my den faced the mailbox, the window.
So you were looking out a window?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And you could see the mailbox?
Yes, ma'am.
And where were Michael Miller and Mr. Randolph?
Sitting in a car.
Sitting in a car?
Yes.
Did you know whose car it was?
It was Mr. Randolph's car. Michael didn't have one.
Okay. And it appeared they were both sitting in the car?
Yes, ma'am. I made sure because I stopped one day and offered Mike something to eat. They sit out there so long, I offered him chips. He got out the car and came and got them.
Okay.
Went and got back in his car.
So it was so long that you went up and offered Michael some food?
Yes.
During the time period that Michael was staying with you, did he have a cell phone?
When he first arrived, he had a cell phone.
Was there a point where his cell phone no longer worked or he wasn't using it anymore?
Correct, yes.
And then how would he get phone messages?
On our home phone, business phone, yes, sir.
You have or at that time you had a home phone that also was used for your business?
Yes, ma'am.
So was that a phone messaging system that you kept track of because you needed to run your business?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall if
He blew
Mr.
up their
Randolph
phone,
ever left
their business
messages for your nephew Michael Miller on that line?
Yes, ma'am, he did.
Any idea of how many?
It was many.
Like many, like 10 or many, many more?
Many, many, many.
Hundreds?
Yes.
200?
About 200.
Okay. And were you the person kind of sifting through those messages?
Yes, ma'am, I was the only one that went through those messages.
Okay. Did you think that the relationship between Mr. Randolph and your nephew was odd?
Yes, ma'am.
How far they go.
Did you ever offer to Michael to hear or listen to those messages?
Yes, ma'am.
And did he want to hear them?
No, ma'am, he didn't.
When was it approximately that you made that offer?
Well, I would always let him know he had messages, but he didn't care to listen to them.
Okay. Do you recall if Mr. Randolph ever left Michael a message about a gun?
Yes, he did.
What was the nature of the message?
He told me, he said for Michael need to bring his gun back home.
Okay.
Back to him.
And were you aware of whether or not Michael heard that message?
I know he didn't hear that message.
Okay. Do you know if Michael ever took steps to return a gun?
I know that my husband told him he had to take it back out of. I had to take it out of our house.
Objection to hearsay.
I'll rephrase.
Okay, just strike that comment will be stricken from the record, Mr. President.
Okay. Did
jury
you
will
ever,
unhear that.
not what they said, but did you ever see Michael or your husband leave the house after that message?
I saw Michael.
Michael leave?
Yes.
Okay, and was that with a gun?
Yes.
Was there any further messages from Mr. Randolph saying he was still missing the gun?
No.
Okay. When Mike was staying with you, did he have a lot of money or a lot of clothes, anything like that?
No.
Was he kind of struggling and trying to get on his feet?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Mike have a car?
No, ma'am.
Other than Mr. Randolph, did you ever see any other person give Mike a ride?
Just myself. I would let him use my vehicle.
Okay, so you would let him borrow your car?
Yes, ma'am.
But did you ever see him have any friends come over and pick him up or anything like that?
No, ma'am.
Well, let me ask this. Did he have another way of traveling or getting around?
The bus?
How about a bike?
Leading?
I don't know if my husband let him use the bike or not.
Okay.
I don't follow him out the door.
Sure. But to your knowledge, his options were kind of limited if you or your husband didn't let him use a car?
Yeah, I just thought it was always the bus.
Okay. Towards the end of Mike's life, did he indicate to you that he thought he was going to come into some money?
Yeah, he told me that he had met a young lady and they were going to move away together, and he was getting some money. He was coming into some money.
Okay. Any further conversation about that?
No.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Bean Counter there needs to be nice.
Good afternoon.
Be nice here.
It's been a long time since this incident, right?
Yes, sir.
You were first talked to by detectives the day after Michael was killed.
Yes, sir.
Okay, on the 9th, right?
About that same day. Yes, sir.
Okay, pretty much. It was late hours, so it was within a 24-hour period the police came and talked to you, right?
It was early in the morning. We just got in from cleaning the buildings.
Okay. And have you ever reviewed your voluntary statement you gave to Detective Mogg?
Yes.
There was somebody else there besides police when the actual interview was happening. Your husband, Billy, was actually there, right?
Yes, sir.
In fact, in the voluntary statement, you answer some questions, Billy answers some questions, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you were in your house? Is that where the interview was taking place?
At the kitchen table.
Okay. And you would agree with me that your memory was probably better at that time regarding the incident and right before that. Would you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you remember being asked about a ski mask?
I remember talk about a ski mask, but I wasn't. Yeah, I kind of remember talk about a ski mask.
And maybe let's just say it this way. Did the detectives ask about a mask? Do you remember having a discussion about a mask with the detectives?
Ask about a mask, but I'd never seen a mask.
Do you remember telling the detectives that you were aware of a ski mask in the house, but it had been missing since December of 2007? Do you remember
Not
telling?
It wasn't me.
Okay. If I showed you a copy of the transcript, okay, would that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm thirsty
Counsel,
again.
I'm showing the voluntary statement, May 9th, 2008. I'm going to be referring to page 15 and 16. May I approach, Your Honor? I'm just going to ask you, you can take that. I'm just going to ask you if you wouldn't mind just reading from where my pen is on page 15 and then read down there. And before we get started, do you see how the initials say BM? Do you see that where it says BM?
Yeah, is that Billy Miller?
Right. And then you see there's VM, and
Yes.
V as in Victor, right? Or as in this case, V.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So if you could just sort of read to yourself all the way down page 15 and then turn the page and read half of 16, please. Let me know when you're done.
The trial this afternoon is going to start at
Read this whole page?
No, I'm sorry.
4 o'clock Eastern time. They're having a late
This
start,
PM, or-
so it'll be very, very late.
If you want to read the whole page, just so that you don't have your glasses, I'll tell you what. Would it? Let me see if because you don't have your glasses, if we can go through this another way, okay? And the prosecution's looking at the statements as well, okay? Okay, so you see the detectives are asking on page 14 about a mask.
Excuse me, it's 15, right? Correct?
Ms. Weckerly, I am just so that she has the context on the very bottom of page 14. The detectives say, what about a ski mask, right? Okay? Okay, and the prosecution can see it. I'm going to leave the rest of it out because they just go on about a description about holes in the eyes and stuff like that, okay? And now I don't want to hear what Billy has to say. Billy has some things, and we're going to hear from him, okay? But they ask Mrs. Miller, are you familiar with that ski mask? Okay? And I want to make sure I'm reading this right. You say, yes, I am. I remember it. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that a yes?
That's a yes.
Okay. And then the police say, and when was the last time you think you might have seen it? And you say, probably before Christmas, 2007. Do you see that?
I said the whole 2007?
Just
Okay.
so, no, I'm just quoting you. I think these are your words. You say,
She's like,
probably before Christmas 2007. Do you see that?
Yes, I see it.
So let's turn the page, okay? The police then say, after we're finished with our interview, would it be possible for you to look and see if you can find it? Okay? And you answer, yes. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then they ask, have you looked around for it since then? And VM, that's you, you say, I've cleaned areas where it would normally be, and I haven't seen it. Okay? And Ms. Weckerly will make sure that I'm reading that accurately.
Okay.
So does that refresh your memory as to you actually saying, yes, I was aware of a ski mask, I just haven't seen it since December of 2007?
So, probably before Christmas 2007.
Correct.
Okay, if
Yes.
that's what the court says. I mean, that's what the record says.
Okay, and I understand.
Don't remember.
I understand it's been a long time, okay? But you wouldn't dispute the transcript, right, if that's what
Right.
it says? Okay.
You wouldn't dispute
And at
the
the
transcript.
end of the interview, do you remember, you tell the police, if you want to, you can go ahead and search the house for them. Do you remember that?
No,
You don't remember that, okay? Do
I
you
don't remember
the
that
house?
either, but
Do you remember the police searching the house for a mask, or no?
no, they didn't.
They didn't?
They did not.
Okay. What did this mask look like?
What mask?
I don't remember.
She's like, I don't remember a mask. Oh, man.
Miss Weckerly, the prosecutor, this lady, asked you about transportation for Michael. Do you remember that? And you said
Yes.
that. Okay. And one thing is, sometimes in court, they have to take everything down. So I'll make sure that I let you finish your answer, and if you can let me finish my question, okay?
Okay.
Do you remember she asked you about transportation for Michael? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And specifically, one of the questions was, did Michael have a bike? Do you remember that?
He didn't have a bike.
Okay.
But yes, I remember the question.
Do you recall saying previously under oath that Michael had a bike that he would ride around on? That his mode of transportation was a bicycle? Do you remember saying that?
During the first,
During the first proceeding, ma'am, do you remember saying that?
no, not really.
If I showed you a copy of what you said, do you think that would refresh your memory?
If it's in there, I believe it.
Okay, I'm just going to show it to you if that's okay. We'll go through it, okay? I understand it's been a long time, okay? And so it's
Very,
something.
very long.
His voice is
Was
just
70-year-old.
dripping with
Okay,
kindness.
I am showing her from this transcript and page 44.
Like
May
the
I
witch
approach
in
her?
Hansel and Gretel. Kindness. Come here, children. I have some candy for you.
Ms. Miller, I understand you don't have your glasses, so what I'll do is I'll just try to read the question and
It doesn't make her
again,
stupid.
Ms. Weckerly
She just
will
can't see
make
the
sure that
paper.
I'm reading this correctly. Okay. You're being asked, did he have a mode of transportation? and you say bicycle and sometimes my vehicle if he was trying to get a job. Okay? Okay?
Okay.
So does that refresh your memory as to Michael having a bicycle?
I missed it.
Yes.
She said the
With
first
our
trial?
bicycles, but
Oh, sure. Okay. So it was your bicycle and he would use it.
Okay. Yes, our
Fair
bicycles.
enough. So fair to say that Michael would either ride the bicycle that's associated with you and your husband,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Or sometimes he would borrow your car, right?
Yes, sir.
He'd also had a girlfriend. He'd just gotten a girlfriend shortly before his death. Isn't that right?
That's what he told me.
And she would give him rides, wouldn't she?
I don't know.
You're not sure?
I don't know.
Did you ever meet the girlfriend?
No.
He's hard of hearing.
You
Spooky.
remember saying that Mr. Randolph had only been at the house twice, ever. Do you remember saying that?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yes. Do you recall previously in 2008 saying that, under oath, saying that he had been at the house, Mr. Randolph, on 2 occasions?
That means that he was sitting at the mailbox, because I only saw him I only saw him there in the garage once.
Okay, so if I understand you, you saw him once at the mailbox, and another time he was at the house for a total of 2 times?
I saw him twice at the mailbox, if I didn't put that in there.
Okay. So how many times did you see Mr. Randolph at the house or the mailbox near that area? How many?
Before the murder, 3 times.
3 times?
Yeah.
You believe that Mike was doing day work for Mr. Randolph, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Tommy's agitated.
And you also talked today about a voicemail left by Mr. Randolph where he seemed upset and was instructing Mike to bring a gun back, right?
Right.
Are you saying that you think there were a couple of hundred voicemails from Mr. Randolph that you deleted?
Oh, it was many, many.
Hundreds?
Voicemails. It was many.
And I don't mean to nitpick. I really don't want to. But could you
yes,
give
you
us,
do.
are we talking tens? Are we talking hundreds? Are we?
You know, it's been so long ago, but it was tons. I know that much. And I turned it all over to the DA years ago.
Okay.
Through Vantage. They should have had a record of all those emails and not for me to, voicemails, and not for me to try to remember those numbers of voicemails that came in. But it was tons. That's all I can say. It was a lot. And every day there was voicemails.
Ms. Miller, that's fair enough. Okay, I
Right.
understand. You're saying that they should be able to say, and it's a long time ago, you shouldn't have to recall that, right?
Right.
You said that Mike had a cell phone when he first arrived in December 2007, right?
Right.
How many cell phones did you see in Mike's room?
In his room?
Yeah.
I only see Mike with, that's one. On his personal, not in his room.
Were you also missing a pair of gloves?
I don't know. I kind of remember some about some gloves.
Now, if I understand you correctly, you said that Mike said that he was coming into some money and he was going to go with his new girlfriend and they were going to move to Florida or California. Remember that?
Yes. Yes, I do.
And Mike also told you that he was going to have nothing more to do with Mr. Randolph, right?
Right.
So just so I understand that, Mike's saying I'm not going to have anything more to do with this man over here, right?
Right.
And I'm going to come into some money. I'm going to move with my girlfriend to Florida or California, right?
Right.
That concludes cross-examination.
Mrs. Miller, I just have a couple questions for you, if that's okay. When Mike told you that he was going to have nothing else to do with Mr. Randolph, when was that in relation to the murder?
That was when I told him he received a phone call from Randolph saying that,
Okay, don't tell us what Mr. Randolph said.
well,
Yes, if we could just get a foundation. She's asking for a date, Your Honor.
We can hear
well, he
what Mr.
received a
Randolph
phone
said.
call from Mr. Randolph. And Mr. Randolph was very upset. And he was fussing in the phone about, I don't know how he can have a girlfriend when he can't afford cigarettes. And how could he, it was, then after that phone call, I talked to Mike. And Mike said, well, I'm not having anything else to do with him.
And I appreciate that, and I'm sorry if I wasn't clear with my question, but was that like a week before the murder, or a day, or 3 days, or?
No, a week before.
A week before? Okay. And I know this was a long time ago. When you talked about the voicemails, you said there were hundreds of them.
Yes.
Do you remember testifying that you actually had deleted them before?
I had just deleted them all, but I had a record of vonage.
Certainly there's phone records, but
Yes.
the actual content of the voicemails, you had no way of knowing what was going to happen, but you deleted them before the detectives got there?
After he said he wasn't having anything else to do with Randolph, I just deleted
Okay.
all the voicemails.
And you mentioned that you saw Mr. Randolph was at your house 2 times, and you described the mailbox time.
Yes.
Where you bring Mike some chips.
Yes.
Were there other times where you would see Mr. Randolph, like, not come to the house, but pick Mike up?
I can't remember.
Okay. When the detectives interviewed you, I think you said like that you sat down at your kitchen table, yourself, your husband, and the detectives?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall if after that interview, the detectives asked you and your husband for consent to search just Mike's room?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I was, after they told me what happened to Mike, I almost fainted. I couldn't.
You almost fainted?
Remember anything.
Yeah. Is it, you just have, do you have any recollection of whether them searching Mike's room or anything like that?
I don't remember that.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
No, Your Honor.
Do the ladies on the jury have any questions for this witness? You can write the question on a full sheet of paper with your name and your jury number. Counsel, can you approach?
We're going to get some static. Okay, so the jury's going to ask some questions here of this witness. It's nap time, or dental self-dental examination time, I think is what it is. Tommy seems agitated. He seems very aware, attentive, and awake, alert. Let's see once the lawyer goes up if he remembers it's time to sleep. I don't see how many questions. We've got a couple questions. I can see multiple papers up there. Lawyers are having some talk back and forth about it. Let's see, there's one, there's another, there's at least three. Okay. And at least four, it looks like. Well, one. Everybody has questions. There's a lot of questions. All right. Oh, Tommy's in pain. Tommy's doing his back popping. He's going to have to stand up here soon, I think. Here he goes. No, he's not standing. He's not stretching his back. He's looking to see who's in the courtroom. Wants to just glance around and see who's behind him. Lots of discussions on these. He's got a toothache, maybe. Tommy did seem to be a bit dominant, domineering in all his relationships. I mean, look at the way he talked to his wife. Even when he was saying about how much he missed her and how much he'd like her to do those little things that bugged him.
Ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Did you ever have any valuable items go missing or disappear while Mike Miller was living with you?
No, never.
Okay.
You previously said that you had seen Mr. Randolph at your house 3 times. Yes or no, did Mr. Randolph ever come to your house after Mike's death?
No.
Okay. State any follow-up based on the jury questions? No, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Long?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Not every question was
Ma'am,
read
you are
there.
excused. Thank you very much for your testimony here today. State, can I call your next witness?
State will call Billy Miller to stand.
Billy Miller's incoming. That was a interesting look she gave towards the defendant. I'm jealous of this man's beard.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please be seated. You can state and spell your name for the record, please.
Billy Miller, B-I-L-L-Y, M-I-L-L-E-R.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Sir, in probably around Christmas time of 2007, were you living here in Las Vegas?
Yes.
And who were you living here with?
My wife, Vita.
All right. How long have you lived here in Las Vegas?
Since 77.
Around that time,
How long I've been living.
did a nephew come to visit?
Yes.
And what was his name?
Michael Miller.
All right. Where was Mike from originally?
Rock Hill, my home. Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Rock Hill, South Carolina. Okay. Do you recall why Mike came out here? What was he looking to do?
Well, he knew I was here, and he was just looking for a fresh start because everybody came, always sought me or my other brother out.
Okay, so you had other family members come out from Rock Hills?
Yes.
He helped
And
a
so
lot
he
of
was
people.
coming
it
out
sounds
too?
like.
Yes.
At the time, did he have a settled job here in Las Vegas?
No.
As far as you know, did he have any, stable income or anything of that nature?
No, we did not.
Okay, so no job and no money.
No money.
Was the plan once arriving to Las Vegas to start looking around for work?
Yes, he did.
When, around that time, did you have a business yourself?
Yes, janitorial business.
I'm sorry?
A janitorial business.
Janitorial. Was it for commercial businesses?
Commercial.
While he was trying to get on his feet, did you even offer to have him assist you and your wife with that business?
He did.
About how old was Mike back in late 2007, early 2008?
He was 30, 39.
About how big was he?
My size.
Okay.
He's about 5'5",
Okay.
about 145.
Okay.
Fit.
At some point in 2008, do you meet someone by the name of Thomas Randolph?
Yes, I did.
Who was the person who introduced you to Mr. Randolph?
Michael, my nephew.
Where was the first person you saw? Where was the first place that you saw Mr. Randolph?
Well, my mailbox is where the visitors park also, right in front of my door. It's a condo.
Okay.
That's where I saw him. And
Who
he waved me over.
And you said they waved me over?
Yes.
Okay, meaning who? When you say they, who are we talking
Michael, my nephew.
And?
He introduced me to who he called Tom.
All right. Now, do you see Tom here in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you please point out where he is in the courtroom and maybe describe an article of clothing that he's wearing?
Blue shirt.
Tie or no tie?
No tie.
All right, let the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant. Was there ever a time that you recall Tom coming inside your house?
No.
Okay, how about your garage?
Yes, to the entry to my garage.
Okay, tell me about that. What do you remember about that?
My daughter and her boyfriend were visiting, and we were sitting down at the bar to my kitchen area, just talking. And my daughter came up and says, Mike says, Tom wants to see your cars.
All right, what sort of cars did you own at that time?
69 Roadrunner and a 91 Porsche.
Okay.
Wow.
So, what did you do at that point?
I gave him a funny look when I got down to the garage, like, I never introduced you to my cars.
So you were kind of private about it?
I was private about my cars, and also the fact that Mike was not a car guy, in my opinion. When we spoke, I felt like it was kind of like an odd situation for me to be in.
All right. So do you stay down there very long?
Not long, because the conversation was quick.
Okay. Back then, how tall, if you can remember, was Tom?
He's probably 6'2", 3".
All right. How big was Tom?
He was size of a fella.
Okay.
Maybe 200, maybe 240, give or take.
Okay, so somewhere between 200 and 240.
Right.
Okay. As the days and weeks go by, do you notice Tom somewhere in the general area of your condo?
Yes.
Where would you typically see Tom?
In front of the mailboxes.
Who would he be with?
Mike.
And where would they be?
They'd be in the car talking.
All right. Were the windows up or down?
They were up.
How long would you, if you would come by and notice them there, how long would they stay inside the car?
Hours.
Do you recall them working on any projects outside by the mailbox?
No.
Any, home improvement things by the mailbox?
No.
69 Roadrunner right here.
I want to ask you a little bit about Mike's...
It's a beautiful little car.
Well, let me do this. Were there times... Well, I'm going to stop for a second. When Mike shows up, does he have any clear mode of transportation when he first kind of moves in and lives with you?
No, I had to pick him up.
All right.
On the bus stop.
Does he start to use something that belongs to you to kind of get around?
Yes, my wife had a little small SUV.
Okay.
And
So
while he was looking for work,
Okay.
she allowed him to use her car.
from time to time. Did he
Yes.
ever use a bike?
I had bikes in my garage.
Okay.
But he never actually used one of my bikes.
Okay. So you remember speaking to the police probably about a day after Mike passed away. Is that right?
Yes, several days after he passed away.
Okay. I know it's been a really long time. Would it help refresh your recollection if maybe you had a chance to just look at a page to see whether or not you recall Mike ever using one of your bikes?
Sure.
And page 13, counsel.
All right.
Take a look at the top of page 13. Just read the silence.
You guys have some nice cars.
And does that help refresh your recollection?
I've got like a
Does that help refresh your memory?
2012
Okay, so,
Nissan.
I know it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's not as
Does
good.
that help refresh your memory? Did he ever use a bike of yours from time to time?
My wife's bike, yes.
Okay. Were there times that you observed Tom picking up Mike with his car?
Yes.
How often would that happen?
At least several times a week, for sure.
Did it include, so it included pickups, is that right?
Yes, pickup.
Did it ever include drop-offs?
Yes, pickup and drop-offs.
I want to ask you about the phone situation. When Mike first showed up around Christmas, did he have a cell phone?
He did.
At some point, does he lose it, or he doesn't have kind of a working cell phone?
That's what it was. It just wasn't working.
So is there a phone line that you provide Mike to use?
Yes.
Which line is it?
It was called Vonage.
Okay, so that's the carrier that you used it?
Right.
Was it a business line?
It was a business line.
And did you provide that phone number to the police?
We did.
Okay, was that number 702-987-3269?
987, yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do you remember, as you kind of would, I don't know, so where was that phone line located?
It was in the kitchen.
All right. So when you'd be home, once Mike had met, well, let's do it this way. Before Tom meets Mike, I want to focus on that phone line for a second. How often did that thing ring? Before Tom?
Infrequently.
Okay. All right. Let's switch it up. When Mike and Tom kind of start hanging out, how often does that phone ring?
It rang if he wasn't there.
Yeah.
It would ring if Tom wasn't there. It would ring regularly for Mike.
Okay. Do you also recall Michael having conversations on that specific phone?
Yes.
Do you also recall whether or not it had a voicemail system?
It did have a voicemail system.
Did it get loaded up with voicemails?
Overloaded.
Okay. Did you guys ultimately kind of delete those messages?
My wife did because it was overloaded.
Given the interactions between, and let me ask you this. Back in the day, I mean, how much older did Tom seem compared to Mike?
Like grandfather, elderly.
Comparatively.
Compared to Mike, right.
When you just observed kind of this, and your understanding is what? That he was kind of doing odd jobs for this guy?
That's what he told me. He said,
Just so we can get clarification, who's the speaker?
okay, I'm talking about, Mike would tell me that Tom was going to help him get some part-time work that he had, like a handyman type work.
Okay. And as far as you know, from your nephew, did he have a prior career as a handyman as far as you knew?
No.
So when you see the number of times this guy shows up, when you see the conversations for hours outside the mailbox, when you hear the phone ringing, what was your thought about this relationship between these two?
I couldn't think too much of it because Mike said that Tom liked him and was trying to help him get work.
So you didn't want to read too much into it?
I didn't want to read too much into it because I know he needed work.
Okay. But putting that aside, did you think it was strange?
Judge, objection, that's leading. He asked the question and he liked the answer, so we did it. He just said he asked a leading question.
Counsel approach. It doesn't matter. Whether or not, the answer doesn't matter because the question was what they wanted to get out. Did you think it was strange? The jury's going to be thinking, that's what's in their head, reverberating right now. Was the relationship strange? Mike liked him. I didn't want to read anything into him. Was it strange? That's what they're marinating in right now as the judge is trying to decide how to proceed.
So based off of this, I understand you said, look, you were trying to be positive because Mike was looking for work.
Yes.
But when you saw the conversations, the sitting in the car, the phone call ringing, did you think it seemed a little strange?
It was strange because he was not getting work.
Okay. Okay.
Boom.
Do you recall Mike complaining to you about not getting enough work from Tom?
Absolutely.
And yet they continued to hang out?
Yes.
And he continued to call?
Yes.
But not enough money was there?
He wasn't able to do the jobs because he wasn't able to assist him because his back was hurting. He couldn't get out of bed sometimes. That was a complaint.
Okay, so you'd have Mike would go over, and then they weren't even doing any work.
Came back with no money and upset.
Do you recall at some point learning that Mike went out shooting with Tom?
He told me that Tom wanted to take him shooting at the shooting range.
Okay.
And that's how did I feel about that? I said, well, when my wife came out and the kids, I took them shooting. That's the first thing we did, went to a shooting range so they can get familiar with the guns that I had.
Okay. So you remember him being invited to go shooting?
Several times that never materialized because he was unable to go.
Okay, meaning Tom?
Tom's back was hurting, so he couldn't go.
Okay, so as far as you know,
really likes that
sometimes
answer.
you heard about it, Tom
Really
wasn't
likes
able
that
to go
answer.
some of the times. But Tom did invite him, as far as you
He did invite him.
Okay. Is there a time where you observed Mike in possession of a gun?
It was strange because it was a handgun.
Right.
And he showed it to me, and I said, you brought a gun home to the house, and he's going to take you shooting. So when is he going to take you shooting? He says, well, you know, Tom, sometimes his back hurts. And I left it at that. And when I walked my dog, maybe 30 minutes later, going past the pool, he catches up with me. Mike catches up with me, and he says, I can't believe you want me to bring the gun back right away. I said, what do you mean? He's blowing my phone. He's blowing the phone up. Bring the gun back.
So did you tell him also to bring it back?
I told him, you got to take it back. Get it to him. Tell him to come back and pick you up because I'm not going to take you.
Okay. Did he tell you whether or not Tom gave him the gun or anything about that?
He said Tom wanted him to get familiar with the gun.
Okay.
Tom wanted him to hold it. Put
I wanna
his
turn your
fingerprints on it.
attention
Get his DNA
to
on
around
it.
May of 2000, or very early May, because I know Mike passes away on May 8th. But early May, do you remember there being a discussion about Michael house sitting with you, about Michael house sitting for Tom?
Yes, he did. He came to me and he says, Unc, he says, I don't know how I feel about this. I said, what do you mean? He says, Tom wanted me to house sit for him and Sharon.
And this is just timeline-wise. This is 1 week before he passes away.
Yes.
So Tom's going to be out of town, and Mike is supposed to be inside that house.
House sitting.
Okay. Do you give him some advice?
I did.
What's the advice you
I
gave
told him that you're new to the neighborhood and probably to some neighbors, and you being a young black man in this man's house, any neighbor could walk up and say, who are you, what are you doing here? And you can't have anything except to say, well, I'm Tom. I say, so you get him to give you a certified letter stated that you are house sitting for him at this address.
He's a smart uncle.
In that week leading up to his passing, is Mike inside the house a lot? Is he house sitting? Or maybe you know or you don't know. I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
After the house sitting, maybe a couple of days before he passes away, or maybe a little bit, about a week before he passes away, does Mike have a conversation with you where he tells you some of his future plans that he's about to do?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just ask you a few questions and you just answer them, all right? So
Carefully.
does Mike tell you that he's planning on leaving the state of Nevada?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Does he tell you that he is going to be coming into some money that he's getting from Tom?
He did.
Did he tell you that the plan was that Tom was going to hire him as a driver because Tom had a bad back?
Right.
The judge
Did he
probably
tell
asked
you
these
that he
leading
was going to
questions.
start this new life
to
with
avoid.
a girlfriend that he made, or that he had met, and they were going to be moving out of state?
Yes, he had, and then he wanted to go visit his son because another young lady knew he was out here.
Okay.
And he was going to visit her also.
Okay. And then did he also tell you that with that money he was going to get from Tom, that he and Tom were going to go buy jet skis together with some of
I
that
know
money.
he did. It kept switching up. So, it wasn't a few days. It was from one story to the next. And I'm thinking he's just kind of.
Just if you.
I'm sorry.
So, Billy, yeah, Billy, you can just answer yes or no.
Okay,
So listen,
I'm
yes
sorry.
or no. Did Mike tell you that he and Tom, with that money that they were coming into, were going to use some of that money to buy jet skis?
Yes, he did.
Okay, so.
Objection.
He's your nephew, right?
Yes.
I would assume you knew him for 39 years?
Yes.
Okay. In the 39 years, had you ever heard or seen Mike go jet skiing?
No.
Okay. Was Mike a boatman?
No.
Okay.
A boating enthusiast?
Let me do this. Do you remember back when you were interviewed by the police the day after about whether or not you had a ski mask
Soundbite.
inside of your house? Do you remember that?
I did.
Okay.
I think the leading questions were to avoid getting to areas the judge had ruled as off limits. Those were very leading questions, but it was in that very sensitive part of the testimony that could very easily get into the mistrial area. So that's, I think that's why they were allowed.
That's stage 303A.
303A.
Ooh, here it is.
Do you recognize this as something from your house?
No, it's not.
Okay. Do you remember, let me ask you this.
Bring it back over.
What is it about it to you that looked different? Why does this not look like something that came out of your home?
Because mine had, it wasn't tied together.
don't
I'm sorry, it
touch
wasn't tied together there. It was more like open like this.
Oh, so
And
you could see
you
all
could
of
see
your
all the way
house.
around, and also the mouth was it would cover your mouth, but you could breathe through it as if you're riding a bike, and you could have a lot of breathing.
Okay, so there's more room
Absolutely.
for your nose and your mouth?
Right.
And there's room for your eyes?
Yes.
And I'm going to publish this to the. So those eye holes of the ski mask in your house are a lot wider, and there's a lot more room for your mouth and your nose to breathe.
Yes.
Okay, so. So you recall.
Anything
maybe a
about
day
the
after
relationship being
this happening
more
with
than
Mike,
just
you
friends.
saying, we had a ski mask that went missing, but when you took a look at this, that's not.
That was not it.
Okay.
No.
And do you remember giving police permission, like, hey, you can come look in a portion of the house, see if you can find it?
Yes.
Okay. But looking at that ain't the one.
That was not it.
Okay. One other question. Let me ask you about baseball for a second.
The other thing, he asked a question
Mike
saying
wouldn't wear anything on his head?
that the money
Baseball
that they
cap,
were going to come into,
Pull close, like
instead of just he.
pull the bib down real close. That's what he wore.
I'm gonna take what's been published as States 303B. You recognize this?
Yeah, that's what he wore all the time.
And by he, you mean
My
who?
Michael, my nephew.
So
yes.
Michael was wearing this all the time?
Yeah,
Did you say he wore it religiously?
he did.
Okay. Even up until his death?
Up until right before his death.
I guess I'll publish to the jury as well. I'll judge that, right? Oh, sorry. My counsel pointed something out. When you head on, we actually can't pick that up.
Okay, yes, that's what he wore all the time.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Bean counter stepping up for the cross. Let's see how this one goes. This witness is smart. Not just smart, like he's like full of wisdom.
Good afternoon.
Let's see how he handles this. Focus. He's ready. He's ready.
You were asked about a bike. Mike borrowed a bike, is that right?
Yes.
He would use it to get around.
My wife's bike, but he didn't use it that often. My wife made every effort to help Mike get a job, so her car, whatever.
So he would use the small SUV that your wife owned sometimes?
Yes.
Okay. And he also had a girlfriend, didn't he? Right towards the end of his life, he had a little girlfriend, right?
I found out that he did have a girlfriend at the end, according to my wife.
Did you ever learn that he received rides from her?
She would drop him off from what I heard sometimes.
Okay. You told the police that Mike had actually cleaned out Mr. Randolph's garage as part of this, handyman type thing. Do you remember saying that?
He said he would have odd jobs sometimes.
Okay.
And whatever it was for his wife or her child, one of her daughters.
Okay.
That's what he said he was going to do.
Okay.
He says bean.
So, if I heard you correctly, Mike said he was doing, or supposedly going to do odd jobs for Mr. Randolph.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Randolph, right?
Right.
And his wife, Sharon,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just for the record, is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Just so it's taken down. Okay.
Sure, I got that.
All right. And also you said for the daughter. Do you remember saying that?
He said that he was going to do some work for her daughter.
For Sharon's daughter.
Sharon's daughter,
Okay.
right.
He said he was going to house sit in the month of May. Mike said he was going to house sit for Tom.
For Tom and Sharon.
Okay. Sometimes Mike would want advances of money from Mr. Randolph, wouldn't he?
I have no idea because he never got paid when he did the work.
Okay.
That's what his complaint.
Were there gloves that went missing from your house?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you remember telling a Detective O'Kelly or any police officers that some gloves had gone missing from your house?
Show me where I said that, please. If you can.
Actually,
Bring it.
It's in a...
Refresh my memory.
I can. Okay.
Please.
I love Billy. Oh my goodness.
I think the problem's going to be it's coming from a police report and not a statement. Okay, so you're going to object to hearsay?
You can object to hearsay? Mm-hmm. I am. She nods. It's coming from a police report, not from a statement. So that was funny. He's like, show me where I said that. Refresh my memory. Bring it. And the lawyer's like, normally I ask the questions here, but now he's I was sort of backed into a corner. Because he said he can do it. Is he going to be able to, though? Because it will be hearsay. Billy's in charge. He's taking charge. Very confident. Even though he's clearly he does not recall saying this, and odds are he probably said something like that. But he's like, oh, there he goes. 3, 2. Yeah, we can see you. Let's see if they object or not.
Do you remember telling detectives, this is page 20 of the
Looks like they're not objecting.
page officer's report, telling detectives that you were missing a pair of black cotton gloves?
What kind of gloves were they?
Black cotton gloves.
As I said again, I don't, if I said it in 08, how long ago it was?
That's a long time.
I have I have gloves that I wear for work because I do janitorial work, and I can't say a pair of gloves were missing because I don't value material things like that to that degree.
Okay. And so really just what I was asking you is, did you tell detectives that you were missing a pair of black cotton gloves, or do you just not remember?
I don't remember saying.
Okay, sir. Now let's move to the mask, okay? You did tell police that you were missing a ski mask, did you?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point, you permit police to look in Michael's room to search the house for a black ski mask.
Absolutely, yes.
And you helped look for the ski mask,
I
too.
didn't help look. I just, permitted them to do it because it was two of them.
Okay.
And I don't, as I said, I have ski masks.
Okay, just, sir, if you could just answer my question.
What were you saying?
With regard to the ski mask, was a ski mask ever located?
Yes, it was.
The police located a ski mask?
No,
Okay, so the police looked for a ski mask, they didn't find it.
but it was there.
Okay, but it was there.
Yes.
And that's the first time, right now, in 2023, is the first time you've ever said that, isn't that right?
I can't say that. My wife and I talked about it when she did laundry. The ski mask was still there, and I wore it to another job site that I went to, Bellagio.
Okay, you talked about this with Vita? You talked about the mask? Okay.
How many
this
people can
mask
say they
that
did a
you
job
said
at
was
Bellagio
missing
and wore a ski mask?
had a big, large mouthpiece, that's what you said, right? And two holes for the eyes.
No, not two holes. They were oblong. In other words, like this. Whereas the eyes
look,
could be
lawyer.
stretched over to the other part of your head where you could just have visibility.
Do you remember being asked by the police this is the statement you made right after Michael was killed, and when I say it, within a day, okay? Do you remember the police came to your house, yes or no?
Yes, they came, and it was more like 3 days because we were missing him for about 3 days.
Okay, if I showed you the date of your statement, would that refresh your memory as to when it was?
To what was the question? I'm sorry.
If I showed you a copy of your statement, would that help refresh your memory as to what day you actually gave the interview?
Compared to when he was killed?
Yes, we could get the date if you...
Give me both, please.
Pardon me?
Give me both dates, if you don't mind.
Sure. It appears he was killed on May 8th, 2008, okay? Okay? And
Billy has his own set of rules
I'm going to
as
show
a
you the transcribed
witness.
statement so you could see the date. Is that fair?
Sure.
That's awesome.
Can I approach?
Love the glasses, too.
If you could, sir, just look at this transcript. You see how this appears to be a transcript of you being interviewed with your wife by the police. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could look at the date, do you see the date and the time, sir?
10:30 in the morning?
And do you see the day?
Yes.
Okay. So it's actually...
May 9th. Right, I see that.
Yes, okay. So it's been a long time, but it appears that within a day, the police are interviewing you.
I'm sorry, within a day of what? What are you saying, within a day of what? Explain that.
You asked when Michael was killed. Do you remember that? And I'm just saying, within a day of Michael being killed, you're giving an interview to the police. Okay? That make sense?
It does and it doesn't. Let me tell you why.
No, sir. No, sir. Please just
Okay.
answer my question.
Just go with the date.
The date, yes.
Yeah, the date was May 9th.
Okay. Okay. May 9th. And they asked you about a ski mask. The police did, if you were missing a ski mask. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And they asked you, they described to you what they were looking for with the ski mask. And they said it would have had holes cut out for the eyes and maybe one for the mouth. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
And you said, I've had one over the years. It was black and had cutouts for the eyes and then the mouth, and you could pull it down, your mouth would be exposed. Does that seem fair?
Yes, that's fair.
Okay. And then you say, yes, it had a big opening for the mouth.
It did.
Okay. And you said you haven't had an opportunity to use it recently. Isn't that what you said?
Yeah, it wasn't cold enough.
Okay, fair. It's May, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. And so could you just describe for the jury just the mouthpiece? How big was this mouthpiece?
The mouthpiece was able to stretch over your mouth and your nose if you chose to.
Was there a hole so that you could breathe through it?
Oh, yeah.
And was this a big hole?
It was.
If you put it on, would it expose a lot of your face?
It was a very high quality mask that you could wear. and you could stretch it over or pull it down on your chin if you chose to.
So you could pull it all the way down if
Yes,
you wanted to.
You've chose to, right. you
Well,
could
one
do
thing you know about this mask, the mask that was shown to you right now by Mr. Hamner, you mentioned that it had something tied up sort of in the mouthpiece area. Did you see that?
I saw that. That was not mine.
That wasn't yours.
Oh, no.
Because yours most certainly wasn't tied up like that, was it?
No. And the eyes weren't like that either.
Okay. And did the police ever ask you for a sample of your DNA? Like do a swab just to see if they could locate your DNA on gloves or a mask?
If they did, I don't remember that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Is he done?
With regard to these lengthy conversations you've described, right? You said they were hours. Remember saying that?
Yes.
Is today, strike that. Did you talk to the prosecution about these conversations at the mailbox?
Yes, I did.
Did you talk to the prosecution recently about this? Did you go to the prosecutor's office? You know what I mean by the prosecutor, right?
I know that.
Okay. And did you talk to him and say, hey, you know, there were these hour-long conversations and they said that they were going to ask you about it? Do you remember that?
No, it was not that way.
Okay. I guess what I'm asking is, did you talk to the prosecutors about these conversations at the mailbox?
I talked to the police about that conversation, those conversations. When they came to interview me, they were homicide detectives. They weren't police, they were homicide detectives.
And are you saying that you told police in your statement that there were these hours-long conversation by the mailbox? You're saying you told them that?
Yeah, they interviewed me later, and I said, yes, that's exactly what it was. It was hours.
You said they interviewed you later. Was it after this statement?
I'm sure it was. Because I had to go down and pick up his things, his personal items.
So it's fair to say that in your statement you gave, the recorded statement to the police, you didn't mention this, but at some point later you told police about this. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you came to a prior proceedings and you testified, didn't you?
I did.
Ooh, prior
and
proceedings.
You didn't mention that there either, did you?
What was that?
About these hours-long conversations that lasted hours out by the mailbox. You didn't mention that.
If I didn't mention it, it wasn't asked.
Okay, fair enough.
Great answer.
That concludes cross-examination.
Go Billy.
Asked you about whether or not you were ever asked at a prior proceeding about whether or not they talked for hours at the mailbox.
Yes.
Okay, you had stated that you don't believe you were ever asked. Is that correct?
That's what I believed.
Counsel, I'm referring to the prior proceeding, 110 lines 13 through 16.
13 through 16.
I want you to see this line here, line 13 through 16.
Should I read that?
Well,
okay.
I'll read it.
I'll
read it in a second. Your testimony just now is you don't recall, correct?
Right. That's it.
So, prior testimony was years ago at a prior proceeding when you were asked. You didn't remember if you were asked that question.
Yes.
As you sit here today and had a chance to review that, is that statement correct?
I did see it. I do remember it.
I'm going, for the completeness of the record, I'm now going to read from page 110, line 13. Question. Would it be daily? Almost daily. What would you say? Answer. Well, it would go in spurts. Sometimes it would be maybe a day or two in between, and then sometimes it was like every day and for hours at the mailbox. So you were asked before, correct? Yes. And you did tell at a prior proceeding.
Yes, I did.
That they talked for hours.
Yes.
Do you remember the question on cross-examination about if any gloves went missing?
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of clothing, do you remember Do you remember telling the police the day after all this happened that Mike had a red sweatshirt and some brown cowboy boots?
Yes, he did.
Do you remember who you told provided the red sweatshirt and the cowboy boots to Mike? And if you don't recall, I can help refresh your memory.
Refresh my memory, please.
Okay.
Because, like I said, I don't value clothes.
Okay, I know, it's 15 years ago, it's a long time.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Referring to page 14, counsel.
The jurors have to know there was a previous trial by this point, even though it's not been explicitly
Showing you page
has been
14.
explicitly
I want you
said.
to look at this question, read this question, this answer, read this, and read this. Does this refresh your memory?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So, now that your memory is refreshed, did you tell the police that Mike owned a red hooded sweatshirt?
He did.
Did you tell the police that he owned some brownish red boots?
Yes.
Did you tell the police who he got them from?
He got them. Yes, I did.
Who did he get them from?
Said he got them from Tom.
And did you tell them the last time you saw Mike wearing the red hooded sweatshirt? And if you need your memory refreshed, I can do that. It's okay.
I can't remember that.
It's okay. It's all right. It's a long time ago.
Too detailed.
We're on page 14.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Read this and see if it refreshes your memory. But the last time you saw Mike wearing the red hooded sweatshirt.
Yes.
What did you say to the police on that day?
It was 3 days because we thought he was just going out.
Okay, 3 days ago.
Yes.
You gave that interview on May 9th of 2008.
Right.
Which would have put that 3 days prior, May 6th of 2008, right?
Right.
And your nephew passes away on May 8th, 2008. Is that right?
Right.
Finally, there were a lot of questions about the ski mask, right?
Yes.
Just to be clear, you saw that ski mask in
I
that
did
bag
see
over
that.
there?
I did.
That ain't the one, is it?
I wouldn't wear that.
Okay, thanks. No further questions.
Yes.
Wow. Very articulate. Yes, eggs and spam. Agree.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
You indicated that there were some brownish red boots and that they were given to Michael by Tom,
That's
right?
what you said.
And you have said that before in your original statement, right?
Yes.
Okay. With regard to the red hooded sweatshirt, didn't you actually say that you had seen Michael with that, but you don't say that Tom gives it to him?
That's what he said.
Okay. I'm going to show him page 14. May I approach that? Let's go through this line by line, and you see if I'm reading this correct.
Okay.
Okay? See, when I show you Q, that's a question by the police.
Got it.
BM, that's you, right? Okay. So Mike have a red hooded sweatshirt question, and you answer yes.
Yes.
Right. And when was the last time you saw that? And you say maybe 3 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And then they say, how about some boots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a yes?
That's a yes.
And you say he had brownish red boots, right?
Yes.
And where did he get those from? And you say from Tom.
Yes.
Okay.
Where did he get those from? Like those, like just the boots, or those the boots and the hoodie?
That ski mask that you've looked at, when was the first time you'd ever looked at that ski mask was 2017? Let me ask it another way. I'll do this.
We're going to approach. You're like, what? You're going to approach. It was a bad question. This is an interesting contrast. You've got Billy on one side of your screen and Tommy on the other. Billy runs a company cleaning commercial buildings, which, for those that don't know, cleaning a commercial building, it's a lot of work. You're under a tight time frame. You can only really clean them normally, like the heavy cleaning, when they're closed. So you're working nights. You're working, and you're frantically getting the building clean so it'll be ready for them to open up the next day. It's a hard job. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of running around, and it's contrast that to Tommy and to what he does for money.
The police never showed you this ski mask, did they?
I don't think I've ever seen that before. But you know, like I said, it's so inferior to the mask that I have, you know, that I would wear.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
The police never showed you that, correct? They never showed you that mask that you... Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any follow-up, Mr. Hamner?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, do the ladies and gentlemen of the jury have any questions for this witness? Okay? You brought your question on the full sheet of paper with your name and your...
Jury's waking up. They're writing questions left and right. Everyone's going to approach. Bailiff's grabbing the papers. Let's see how many we got. Tommy's already asleep. He's on cue. He's ahead of the game. Might actually get some real shut-eye in here. Maybe the headphones fall off. Get a little pen in the forehead, something like that. Interesting angle. Considering we're not supposed to show anything of the deliberations. Since none of their faces are showing, I guess it's okay. He's just resting his eyes. Camera's on me again. He must have a monitor that shows when he's on camera, so he knows when to nod off.
Yes, ma'am.
At what time do you remember Mike leaving your house on May 8th of 2008?
What time did he leave your house on May 8th?
That was the day before he passed.
That was the day that he passed, is May 8th.
Okay. What I can say to that is Mike was missing for 3 days. That's unusual for him.
Okay.
No call, no show.
So he was missing for 3 days?
3
before
days. That's why it was concerning to me that the police would show up 3 days later.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the homicide detective said we're homicide, and me and my wife looked just like, you know.
Sir, do you remember what type of gun did Tom want Mike to get familiar with?
It was a small black handgun, maybe like a 9mm, fit into your hand, but bigger than the kind that was that you would put in a waistband, but big enough, say you would go shooting, you could maybe take down a target.
The Makarov.
And it was a semi-automatic. Let's put it that way. It wasn't a revolver.
Okay.
It was the
On the night
Makarov.
of May 8, 2008, was your bicycle missing?
If it was in my garage, I've never been asked that question. Are my bikes missing? Because I don't have a bike missing out of my garage even to this day.
Okay. Mr. Hamner, any follow-up based on the jury questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Orr?
Yes, sir. Do you remember the police asked you in the interview, when was the last time you had seen, or if you saw Mike yesterday? That's what they asked you. So on the 9th, they were asking you if you saw him on the 8th.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
You don't remember the question?
I don't remember that question being asked of me.
If I showed you, well, you said that you had not seen him yesterday.
I hadn't seen him yesterday. I hadn't seen him in 3 days. That's why I was concerned if they would show up and ask.
So your wife was present in the interview with you, right? And she said she'd seen him yesterday. Okay. Remember that?
I don't remember saying that. We never talked about that.
I don't want to mislead you. You didn't say it. Your wife said it. Do you remember her saying that in front of you?
Hearsay, yep.
I'm just going to allow you. Sir, do you remember if you heard your wife say that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
If I showed you a copy of the statement, would it refresh your memory?
If my wife said it.
Hold on just one second, sir. Mr. Orr, that is hearsay if his wife
It is
says
hearsay.
He asked him if he remembers her saying it. He doesn't remember it.
That's fine.
It was stressful times. Yes.
Dismissal.
Anything else, Mr. Hammer?
No, Your Honor.
Do the ladies and gentlemen of the jury
Sit
have any
down.
further questions? Ms. Holmes? Okay, write your question on the full sheet of paper with your name and your jury number.
Got more jury questions. More jury static. Yeah, they missed their chance. That's the question they should have asked her. And now she's been dismissed. They can't ask it. They can't bring in a statement she made previously and and introduce it as evidence now. Uncle Billy is delivering for sure. Tommy's not stretching his back. He's looking in the courthouse. It's definitely, he turns for his eyes, not for his back, I don't think. Let's see if he stands up, though. I've got it. We want to know what this question is.
Very much for your testimony.
You're very welcome.
They ruled, what happened there is they ruled that the jury question is not admissible, that it's not
Ladies and
proper.
gentlemen, at this point, we are going to take our night recess. During this recess, you must not discuss or communicate with anyone, including fellow jurors, in any way regarding this case or its merits, either by voice, phone, email, text, internet, or other means of communication or social media. You must not read, watch, listen to news or media accounts or commentary about the case. You must not do any research, such as consulting dictionaries, using the internet, or using reference materials. You must not make any investigation, test the theory of the case, recreate the aspect of the case, or any other way investigate or learn about the case on your own. You must not form or express any opinion regarding this case unless prior submitted to you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be in recess till tomorrow at 1 p.m. I do have something I have to do in the morning, so we will be here at 1 p.m. tomorrow, so we will resume at that time.
Okay, 1 p.m. is 4 p.m. Eastern time. Oh, we've got cameras going all over the place. Just find a safe spot and look at that. Don't want to show the jury leaving. Let's see if there's any business outside the presence of the jury. Okay, jury's gone.
Like we're outside the presence of our jury. Do we have any matters outside the presence?
Oh yeah, the judge ordered that we can't hear this, so they may be doing something and we'll never know. Oh man, why is my camera frozen? That's no good. Let's fix that real quick. My camera froze. Let's give it a minute to turn off here. Let's see. Can we watch the 4 p.m. trial in the morning? That's going to be Saturday morning, Little Miss. Saturdays are special days that involve a lot of metal detecting and usually some yard work. Brandy is going to go live this afternoon with the trial. She'll be live, I think, 3:30, something like that. Half an hour before the trial starts. She'll be live with the second portion, which is actually the first portion for today. That start in the afternoon even for them. Okay, death penalty. They're not going for the death penalty this time, but that's not for the jury to concern themselves with. They're just looking guilty or not guilty. See if the camera will turn back on. Do y'all see where that mom got 3 days in jail for taking a picture in the video in the courtroom? Yes. All right. Now we've got a picture back. All right. Where are we? The couple things. First of all, there's Brandy's channel right there. If you are not following Brandy, you should. She's going to be covering this live. We're going to cover it Monday morning, so after the weekend. Tonight at 8 p.m., we are going to be doing our podcast. Oh, there's a buffer sound. I need to turn it up so I can hear it too. Let's see. Buffer. What did I do? Where's the buffer? Can I get a link to Brandy, please? Yes, if you type !Brandy in chat, it pops the link up just like this. Assuming it responds, but my chat is everything broken? I heard a buffer sound. Chat disconnected. Chat just reconnected. I heard the buffer sound, but I don't know what. I didn't get the message. I got chat disconnecting on me. We're good now. We're back. There was I think that was a YouTube issue. Let me turn this off. Okay. I don't know what that is. Oh, YouTube just autoplayed the next video. Nice. Don't need that. All right. It was frozen. It was aliens. What did you miss? What was I saying? Mod chat.
Call from
Mr.
Ivan, how are you doing?
All right. How's it going, RA?
Great, great. Happy Friday to you.
Hope all the addicts are doing well. Boy, we got kind of this schedule is kind of funky with it being West Coast, huh?
Yeah, it's a little weird, but it seems to work for us a little bit.
Yeah, I guess we got spoiled with all the East Coast Central antagonists. But I'm wondering if your opinion on Mike has changed one way or the other. You know, I feel like there's a divide going on in the chat, and I'm helping push it as strongly as I can.
And go over your opinion again. You feel what about Mike?
Okay, well, I just feel as if that everybody is so ready to pile, like, and don't get me wrong, Tommy is a grade A piece of you-know-what, but I feel like there is this, because we know so much, and because we have so many prior, details of his nefarious, actions and behaviors with his prior wives, and just really everybody, that he's such an easy target to sort of pass the buck along to when it comes to Mike's culpability in all this. And so I feel like it's sort of becoming one of those things where every piece of information, it either validates your prior, it validates both sides of the coin. It's one of those weird scenarios where you say one person can hear the same set of information and say, see, and have a totally different opinion than the person who also is attributed in that. So my point is that, like, I feel is that, we keep hearing about the hard times he fell on, and it was easy to, draw him in here or there. Well, I don't know about his cognitive issues. I've heard, murmurings about that, but I haven't actually seen anything hard, concrete that suggests that. But my point is that, we should all be so lucky to fall on hard times and have an aunt and uncle willing to move us across the country for free, let us live with them for nothing, feed us, house us, give us access to vehicles to look for jobs, offer us work in our own business. I mean, those are some pretty, not to say he wasn't down on his luck, but you know what I mean? In the grand scheme of being down on your luck, that's a pretty decent setup.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people don't have that safety net as small as it was, and as I'm not saying that Billy and his wife were like wealthy and everything, but they worked hard for what they had, and they wanted to give opportunities to family that needed it. Here's what I'll say when it comes to Mike.
Yeah,
I think more so now that this was a complete setup, and he did not know that this was going to go down the way it did.
That's what I was referring to, because after everything I just heard, I feel like my opinion's only bolstered because.
What about the gun? Giving him the gun and saying, "Hey, get familiar with this," and then as soon as he took it home, he's like, "Okay, now I need it back. Now that you got your fingerprints on it." What?
Well, get familiar with it can mean a lot of things. Get familiar with get familiar with the safety, get familiar with how many rounds it holds.
The only way you get familiar with a firearm is by touching it, by working the action,
Absolutely.
by trying to figure out. He's like, "Get your fingerprints all over this. Now bring it back."
But my point is that if Mike was so, why agree to all these conversations? Like, you can't tell me that he didn't sense somewhere along the line that this wasn't adding up, if we're really putting him in this sort of infantile, state where he just doesn't know any better. Because it seems to me that Uncle Billy didn't really trust him all that much either. Like, why are you showing off my cars? I haven't even showed these cars to you. You know what I mean? Like, why are you flaunting my things to people I don't know when I haven't even introduced you to these things? I don't know, man. Like, it just seems like we're trying to dump on Tommy because he's such a piece of work that I have, like, have no doubt that Mike knew what the plan was. I think that the quote-unquote girlfriend was actually, this is my 2-cent theory, and literally take it for what it's worth. I don't even know if it's worth that. It's just some dumb guy on the internet.
I'll give you half price. I'll give you a penny for it.
Go ahead. But all I know is that my opinion is that I think he thought he knew what the gig was. He knew that they had to get rid of Sharon. They were going to come into this money, and him and Tommy were going to go live happily ever after on whatever godforsaken island they ended up on. Okay, that's my 10-cent theory. And so, I don't know. I guess
we
I
haven't
have
heard.
no doubt he got in over his head. But I do not think he just was blind to what the idea was. I think he knew the end result. I don't know if he knew how he fit into that, but to me that doesn't matter. If anybody concocted a plan for me, and I bring it back to Mr. Morrison, we all love Mr. Morrison. Well, if we love Mr. Morrison and believe him, then we have to believe Mike knew what was up. Because the same exact plan was proposed to him, and he said, "No, man, no."
Okay, I don't know. There's just too many things in here that look wrong. You've got the two hats, right? The one he always wears, and then the other one that doesn't have his DNA on it. You've got you've got the guns, the here, take a gun home, and then the testimony that they never went shooting or he never took him out. He just wanted him to hold the gun and then get it back.
Yeah.
You've got it's just strange. It's really weird. The ransacking of the house doesn't sell it.
Whether or not he thought he was going to be the one pulling the trigger is sort of a non-issue for me. If he knew that was the end result, and I do believe he did, why else be there? Why else agree to, this was long planning in the work. If you're there and you know whether you think you're the one that's going to be doing the crime or not, I think you're on the hook, man.
I think Mike probably knew something illegal was going to happen, but it could have been that Mike's version, the story that they talked about and called and he had set up in his head was that, hey, we're going to be gone and I want you to come in and take this stuff. Here's where it's going to be. Take this stuff and you get to keep it. And I'm going to file an insurance claim and then we'll split the money from the insurance.
What kind of insurance claim is going to get you actually any money? He was stealing cosmetic jewelry and stuff that wasn't worth a garage sale, I mean,
well, people commit insurance fraud every single day, and that's why we have insurance fraud investigators. But
why would you need Mike at that point? You know what I mean? It's a stage of robbery. I don't know. It's just all so convoluted
where Mike was coming from. I mean, a pair of boots and a hoodie, that he needed that, and so he was getting. He was at subsistence level.
Rent-free.
Yeah, but he had nothing. He had a bike. He was trying to get started. He had nothing, and so if he gets anything, if he gets a couple $100, it's a lot of money for him.
We have different versions of nothing, RA. We have it's all relative, I know, but we have very different ideas of what nothing consists of. When you have a warm house, a vehicle you can use, free food, all the rent, that's not nothing. Okay, that isn't enough to drive a man to do, in my opinion. That's not nothing. I mean, I guess, and like I said, it's all relative, and who knows what his point of view was. But like I said, that's just my dime store opinion. And anyway, I love
it. Ivan, let me just say, for those that aren't familiar, Ivan is a great friend. Love him dearly. Appreciate him having an opinion. Occasionally, sometimes we disagree, like now, and that's good because it challenges me to think about my position and everything else. And I see I've got a lot of people. I think we're about split, like 50-50 in chat as far as.
Hold on, I love the compliment, but Purple Haze, I am not 5'6". I am 5'10". Okay, 5'11" in work boots.
In heels.
Okay? I resent that comment. My Python cowboy boots, I am a good 5'11", so you take it back across
high-heeled cowboy boots? Is that... Awesome.
All right.
Ivan, good talking to you. We'll catch you later, my friend.
Have a great day.
See you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye. All right. I was talking about the podcast. I just want to tell you tonight, I think we've twisted the arms of Adam Nuske and Red Pen, and we're trying to get them both on the podcast tonight. And maybe not for the whole thing, but just for a segment where we can, talk and get to know them. It's sort of our little efforts. They're people who have been with us in chat for a long time and are full of witty comments in chat. So we'd like to include them a little bit with Thomas and I tonight. And they've both said, yes, we're going to hold them to that. It's a legally binding contract. You can't back out now. Chat is here to witness. So that's going to happen tonight. We're going to have that at 8 p.m. Thomas and I will be going live with the Not Relevant podcast. And I encourage all of you guys to be here. All you guys to be here for that. Let's see. Do we know Mike shot her? Is Sharon's DNA on Mike's body? No, Sharon's DNA was not on Mike's body. Only Mike's DNA was on Mike's body. The guns, the story that we heard from Tommy, if all that is true, if what happened, it seems to indicate that Mike shot Sharon. And I don't know, it just seems like a setup to me. It just seems way too much of a setup. I don't know, does Mike, he might have a criminal history. I don't know. We could probably research that and find out if he was in South Carolina, if he has some convictions there. We do know that the Billy was saying that, he came out for a fresh start, a new chance, but I'm not sure if that meant he was in trouble with the law or if he just fell on hard times. Let's see. I think that's it. I think that's it. Do we know even if the jewelry was insured? I don't know. The police did not confiscate the jewelry. The defense wants you to think that there was like solid gold watches and stuff in there, and let's see, who was saying that it was solid gold? I think it was the defense. Prosecution thinks that it's more costume jewelry. We're doing the BK hearing today. The BK hearing is not open to the public, to my knowledge. It will be on Zoom. The video after the fact may be released to the media, so we would have to wait for that, but it would be at the tail end after we already know the results. Let's see, Dream of Laundry. Let's see, back up. Do I get a unibrow? Is this for the podcast or the live stream for the verdict watch? Do I have to wear a unibrow? Like the fake unibrow above my other unibrow? Oh, man. I believe you mentioned risk of mistrial if more than friends relationship between Mike and Tommy is mentioned. Can you please explain why? I'm not sure if mistrial would be the right thing, but the judge ruled that was not admissible. The judge, this came up previously during this case. Basically, they found out that the family was going to testify, and they were going to say, look, we thought that Mike and Tommy had a thing going on. Defense says, no, you can't go there. The judge agreed and said, no, you can't. You can talk about, they thought it was weird how much time they were spending together, and you can talk about them coming into money, $400,000, or him coming into money. In the questioning, they said they would be coming into money, which the defense did not object to, which was interesting. But they said you cannot bring up the thought that they thought there was a relationship going on. Closing argument on Oxford shooting. That's going on right now. Thomas Randolph has admitted to shooting Mike Miller. Yes, he has. And even by Thomas Randolph's story, it is like right on the line of whether or not this would be considered self-defense. Seriously, it is so close. He barely, and almost as an afterthought, included enough detail to say, yeah, that would qualify as self-defense. But then the two shots afterwards, when he's on the ground, that's an execution type shot. All right, Brandy mentioned a unibrow and guiding me through the application. I think I'm going to have to do it, Lisa. But it's going to be above my other unibrow, right? I can only have I almost have a unibrow, and I could make it a unibrow. It'll be thick, and I've got so much eyebrows already. I'm not lacking in this area. It's going to be interesting. All right. For those that don't know, we're talking about the fact that on Verdict Watch for this case, I will be on live with Brandy on Brandy's channel, and we'll watch that together. And she wears, she got somebody who complained about her eyebrows during a Verdict Watch, and she said they became a Verdict Watch thing. I didn't get to see it, so I'm sort of catching up. And so they've sent me these fake eyebrows. I'm not sure if you can see this. You can't. A link to YouTube or to Amazon where I can order these fake eyebrows and put them on. And I guess I get a unibrow. On the 911 call, Tommy said he saw the suspect running out of the garage. I think that's the plan. He told Mike, kill Sharon and then run out. I think Tommy slipped by saying that. He saw the suspect running out of the garage. I didn't hear that part, Holly. I might have to go back and listen. I thought I said he saw him running across the hall like a shadow or something. Or that was the replay, the walkthrough. Tommy was grooming him. A facial hair overload. Definitely. So Red Pen and Adam, here's what I need you to do. Just so it's easier for me, if both of you can text me on the burner phone and just have in the text just your name, Red Pen or Adam, so I can communicate with you the necessary information. I know I've got you in there already, but it saves me from scrolling to find you. We'll get you the information for the live stream tonight, what you need to connect with. And we'll probably be on a little bit early, maybe half an hour early, just to make sure everything's working with you guys. Any other questions we need to discuss right now? It's Friday. The weekend starts early for us. Brandy has to work late. Sorry, it's the gig she drew. But Adam, I'm going to veto that. You need to be here. We've already hard penciled you in on the program, on the rundown. Are those eyebrow tattoos? I think they are. They're temporary tattoo eyebrows. It looks like they're made by Brows by Bossy on Amazon. I know I'm not going to give you guys the link because my P.O. box would be full of them. Yeah, I could probably do some microblading for sure. Meaning trimming or macroblading, trimming my eyebrows. That would work. Can we get a poll on where people are leading? Guilty, not guilty, based on if we didn't know anything about prior acts and based on this trial only? Jamie, that is a hard poll. First of all, yes, we want to do a poll, but by tradition, we do the poll after the prosecution and defense rest. That's when we're going to do the poll. We like to view this as the jury does, but we will definitely have to somehow extrapolate the data based on what we know, if we know more than what the jury knows or not. All right, burner, that's me. Okay, get an affiliate link. I do have an affiliate link, but I just, no eyebrows. I'll order my own eyebrows and we'll do the eyebrow thing for the verdict watch. I guess I need to get it. I probably need to order it today. Looking forward to the podcast tonight. Brenda, it's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you all can be there. Yeah, it's tradition. Just here's what I say. I realize that as the voice on the channel, I'm not that I am like the voice as the high and mighty, but because I'm the person controlling what is said, I have a lot of influence on what people are thinking about or how people view something. I like to wait to share my opinion until everybody's been able to weigh in and be able to share it freely, because I don't want to influence the outcome that way. I'm not very good at it, but I try. Red Pen, don't do that. We need both of you here. All right. Can't wait for the podcast. I'll be closing the store up tonight. Bring your A game, Red Pen. It'll be good. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm going to pop over there and take a look at the rundown. Oh, there it is. It's on my screen right here. You guys can't see it. It's top secret. Let's see. Is there anything? Ooh. We've got some good stories. We've got some good stories to share. All right. You guys are going to love this. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. All right. That being said, is there anything else we need to cover before we break for the afternoon? I would say if you're dying to see what happens here this afternoon when they start at 4 p.m., you can watch it over on Brandy's channel. Just come join us at when the podcast starts, and it'll be fantastic because it'll probably push all the way into the podcast. That's when they're going to be done. Okay. So did we get the text from Adam and Red Pen on the burner? Let's see. There's Adam. Red Pen, where are you at? Just text the burner really quickly. And here's what I'll do. how to do this. I'd like to test it right away. So if there are any problems, we can get them sorted out. So I'll send you the links right away if you can text me really quickly. All right, that's it. I need a text. Oh, yes, I need a text from you. And we'll watch for a text. I'll reply back, and we'll see if we can test right away. So, are you sending this to Brandy, or do we have to go ourselves? Well, Brandy has not started yet. She starts in 2 hours or 3 hours. It's a long wait. I'm telling you, it's a long wait. Court does not start until 4 p.m. Eastern time, and she'll be going about a half an hour before that. I do recommend you go over there, though. You're welcome to go hang out in the pre-chat for 3 hours, but there will be nothing to really watch until then. We'll be covering it on Monday morning, what she covers live today. Amy, that's 4 p.m. Eastern time. Right now it is 12:20 Eastern time. 12:23, actually. Britta, you did a pretty good job with the internet. We did have a little bit of a hiccup. A little bit. So lurk less, work more when you own the internet. That's all I'll suggest. Thank you, Dallas born, Boston bred. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you as always. Red Band's trying to sell or pay someone off to appear in place. Yeah, not going to happen. Are we at 8:30 or 8, Amber? I guess I should sort of ask. I'll ask Thomas to make sure, and we'll put up a placeholder for the podcast right away. Randy's at 3:30. I think it's at 8. Monday at 9 a.m. That sounds right. We might have an update today, depending on what happens in BK. That'll just be a random surprise one, so be watching for that if it happens. All right, tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better, and please stay safe till we go live again, which will be the podcast at 8 or 8:30 tonight.
Is that correct?
8 works better. Buffer. That's all right. 8 p.m. Thanks, guys. We'll see you. Casey, we'll see you at the podcast at 8 p.m.